for both their children and their parents.
10 years today since Islamist terrorists attacked the newspaper Charlie Hebdo. We remember those who lost their lives in Paris as the publication releases a special edition.
Lincolnshire and Leicestershire declare major incidents as rain and snow batters the nation, with the body of one man recovered in North Yorkshire.
And as the decorations come down and life returns to normal after Christmas, are you wondering how to get rid of your tree? OK, suggestions welcome. Feeling that? We will tell you.
And in the sport, I tell you, it's like the old Brian Clough days. It's Nottingham Forest win again. The joint second on points at the moment at the top of the Premier League. The referee will have a voice for the first Carabao Cup semi-final tonight between Arsenal and Newcastle if he's needed. And the snakebite and the bully boy, a drop from the Premier League of darts.
Hello there, good morning. It's a cold and icy start, also with some snow showers in the west, and this could lead to some travel disruption. I'll be here later with all the details.
1 minute, coming up to 2 minutes past 6. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
We had a good day yesterday and plenty of decent response to it. Liam, the fellow who goes around the country cleaning road signs, is absolutely brilliant. Have we got an example of Liam cleaning a road sign? No? No. Anyway, he's got a big hose. And
I heard that.
He sprays the road signs,
yes.
And they all look marvellous.
They do.
And it makes me feel, I find him on Instagram, and it makes me feel good.
At Liam the Sign Guy, yes. And you broke the inbox yesterday in response to Liam cleaning that sign live on air.
So this got us thinking. Paul. If it makes us feel good and getting positive news is very, very difficult.
Of course.
Why can't we do more of this? Why can't we find more Liams? Not necessarily people with big hoses, but people who do something that get us looking, get us viewing, getting us being voyeuristic about this thing and forgetting our troubles.
Eamonn, Ellie,
Yes.
I do something for the public every time I take the dog out for a walk.
What
Which
do
is?
you do?
I take some, what do you call them, secateurs, the little garden trimmers, scissor thing. I took, whenever I go, and then there's bushes that are overgrown down along the walk that are going out, and so dogs are getting, I trim them as I walk every day. And there's a house down the road from me, and it's all over, and every time I'll go out, cut down some of the stuff, and then I'll disappear. I'm one of those, and I don't know whether it's bad or whether it's good that I'm doing it.
I'd be very grateful.
I think it's quite good because it's on a private property. It's not council
but
bushes.
it's going over onto the pavement, so people can't get through.
Well, they should be doing that. The
I
owners
agree.
Are doing that.
I
So
absolutely
well done,
agree.
you. Well
Thank
done
you very much.
So this got me thinking. Right, what is there that that you could tell us about, like Liam cleaning the signs and things? Is there anything else? Now, something else that I tend to be quite addicted to is blacksmiths.
Yes.
Changing horses' hooves. So have a look at this. Oh, I haven't got it yet. There's all film. We have got it. Right, so there it is.
Oh, look.
Yeah, listen, look.
Oh, look at that.
Right.
I tell you what.
Now, this is very satisfying.
Oh, isn't it?
Do you think so, Ellie?
I think so, yeah. It's taking a metal hook, there must be a technical name for that, putting it into the hoof and taking out all this black...
He's dehoofing the horse.
Dehoofing. And then there's
Look at this
white
bit.
stuff. What's that stuff?
It's like coconut.
It's like, but it looks like coconut, but it's cuticle, I would think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, cut the cuticle, you've got to be careful around this.
Yes.
And then you would say, why is that not hurting the horse? Does the horse not feel this at all? The horse seems to enjoy what's going on.
They probably get relief from it, don't they? Getting all the muck out from under there.
I get a bit of relief from it. I could watch that for 3 minutes or so, and I'd think, isn't that marvellous? Because the horse, it gets its nails clipped and pruned. Is that the word?
Yeah.
It's a horsey pedicure, isn't it? Is what it is.
Yeah.
It is a bit.
So-
Very satisfying.
And you think, why would you be watching that? But as you say, very satisfying.
Exactly.
Oh, look
Look at this. Look at this.
Big lump of dirt.
Oh.
Scoop it out.
Yeah. Amazing, hey? Amazing.
Addictive. It's
Now,
addictive to
maybe
watch.
you have something that fixates you on the internet or on Instagram and that you think you should share with all of us. Like, you did enjoy that.
You know what? I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Ellie did as well, didn't
Yeah,
you?
I did. It's very, very
Something.
satisfying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you've got anybody in your community...
We've got the other
who
three
is-
hooves to do, by the way. We
Yeah.
can see those
Oh,
as
we've
well.
got more where that came from.
Oh, God,
We'll do
I bet
one
we
each
have.
hour, shall we,
That'd be
till the end of the
great.
show?
Yeah. Half an hour.
If you've got anyone in your community who is giving back, a bit like Hoyty with his secateurs,
Yes.
let us know. Get in touch. gbviews@gbnews.uk. We probably need your number. And if you can explain this person as well, just put a little description.
See, maybe when you're going out tonight, you should film that.
You know what? Yeah, I think I will.
Should do a bit of that and say, you know, do you think you're providing a service?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Well, he is.
Because some of the overgrown, you know, all the ivy that's got so thick, I have to get go to the garage, get the big ones and give it all the...
You
cut
bring the
through.
big ones?
Yeah. And I've cut through some of them, and then it's all beginning to fall down. I'm just thinking that maybe one day I'm going to cut one too many, the whole lot is going to come down. But I find it extremely satisfying.
Yeah, you're a hero.
Wow. Very
Well,
good.
I
Your
like to think
community.
so, Em.
You are.
Thank you.
Right, Paul, but meanwhile, you'll be back with the sport, the football last night and everything else in about
Absolutely.
15 minutes' time.
Absolutely.
Oh, and we're calling this feature Eamon's Community Champions. which
Oh, I like
as
that.
Well.
Yeah.
So we want to hear from community champions, and if we like what you're about, we'll invite you onto the show. And you can tell us all about it.
The Prime Minister under fire yesterday after a press conference. They were meant to talk about NHS reform, but they ended up talking about grooming gangs and the criticism that he's getting on that front.
Yes, responding to criticism from tech billionaire Elon Musk, Sir Keir Starmer defended his time as Director of Public Prosecutions before labelling calls for a national inquiry into grooming gangs as far right.
It is something about the nature of our politics, because once we lose the anchor that truth matters, in the robust debate we must have, then we're on a very slippery slope. And when politicians, and I mean politicians, who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
I think that's a terrible thing to say. Jumping on a bandwagon to protect children, to get justice for children, maybe. But I think he's been very controversial there. And again, it's all about me, that one. The Home Secretary, in response to all that, so she says, right, we're going to give harsher sentences to people who've been groomers, and we're going to announce a new victims and survivors panel to advise ministers. I don't know why everybody needs advice on this. It's quite obviously that, you know, a crime has occurred and is continuing to occur. And I don't know, Charlie Peters, he's the man that broke all this. He's the man which is responsible, Charlie, for the Prime Minister talking yesterday. I think he's got to forget this is not about him. This is about these children.
And that's very much the response I had from survivors yesterday morning, Eamonn and Ellie, after that press conference. A lot of anger to those statements, calling people who are engaging with those demands for a national public inquiry, an aggressive review into this issue, as jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. Well, yesterday was day 6 of this story rumbling on after we broke the news last Wednesday that the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, had denied a request from Oldham Council for a government-led review. This was Labour's opportunity to take control of the message and respond to all of the criticism that has been levelled at the party, at the government and at Keir Starmer since that news was broke on Wednesday. But I have to say that control very much slipping from them at the moment with the responses we've seen from survivors and campaigners across the country. We also had that emergency statement from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, in the House at 5:30, another attempt to get a grip on this story with 3 new policy announcements. Not only the panel you've mentioned and the new aggravating factor of grooming for sentencing of child sexual offences, but also the introduction of mandatory reporting, which has been recommended by the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. That will make it an offence for people to not report child sexual abuse if they are aware of it in institutional settings. So the government there introducing new legislation in response to these demands, but Fundamentally, Eamonn and Ellie, the lead demand that we're seeing from political opposition and a lot of campaigners right across the country is for that national public inquiry. They are saying that the ICSA report in 2022 only looked at a handful of locations across the country on this issue, and those areas did not have compelling reports of child sexual exploitation gangs, on-street grooming. They've pointed to the fact that there are well over 50 different towns and cities where this has been reported, that has been compiled by GB News, where investigations, they say, need to take place to uncover any corruption, prevention of investigation and any cover-ups that could have led to this national atrocity being ignored. But there are also further political problems for Labour on this. Last night, GB News revealed that an influential Labour group called Blue Labour, led by the Labour peer Maurice Glasman, had broken with the government's stance on this. They have demanded a national public inquiry, saying that it has to look into this issue across the country without any fear. Could we see more Labour voices add to those demands?
OK, Charlie, we're going to speak to you again throughout the morning as you raise this whole subject again, and we're going to get reaction from our viewers and listeners.
Well, let's speak now to Deputy Editor at Spiked, Fraser Myers, who joins us in the studio now. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Fraser, and I'm just listening to Charlie there. You wonder how the survivors and their families feel about all of this being politicised, and Sir Keir Starmer claiming that wanting an investigation, a national inquiry into all of this is far right.
I think Keir Starmer's comments are outrageous. I think it compounds the original failure with this grooming gang scandal. One of the reasons why these cases were not investigated, why so many women and girls were abandoned, why they were ignored, was because out of this fear, the authorities did not want to appear racist. Now we hear that it's far right to be concerned about this issue. I don't see the difference there. That we are compounding the failure once more. We cannot allow sensitivities around race or around appearing to be far right get in the way of justice for these many, many thousands of victims.
But Fraser, here's the thing. People will look at this and they'll say, well, what harm is an inquiry going to do? You looked at 5 areas, you should have looked at 50 areas. Why not give justice to the people in these areas? Really, at the end of the day, if we're doing the right thing, what harm are we doing? So who would come out of this not looking well?
Well, I think, yeah, lots of local authorities, lots of social services groups, lots of police officers, potentially also the CPS. And, you know, Keir Starmer has defended his role at the CPS at the time. He did make some changes to make it easier for victims to come forward. But there probably still are questions to ask around there. Every part of the state was involved in this cover-up. At every level, it was believed...
So why does he not want that exposed?
I'm not sure that he doesn't want it exposed. I think he's just mishandled this. I think he's totally misjudged the mood of the nation. I think that he thinks that this is a social media issue.
Yeah.
You know, he's coming out swinging against Elon Musk, and to some extent, fair enough. Some of the things Elon Musk is saying is crazy, talking about, you know, essentially the US invading the UK and liberating us from our tyrannical government. That's bonkers. But this is an issue that really touches ordinary people. People are furious about this. And I think he's completely misjudged that. I think he sees this as an issue that's of concern to far-right rabble-rousers rather than ordinary members of the public.
Yeah.
And so he's just misreading the public mood. I don't think that he necessarily has anything to hide here. I don't think he is complicit, as some people have been suggesting. I don't think there's a grand conspiracy. I just think Labour keep misjudging this issue.
Yeah. You think he's out of touch?
I think he's completely out of touch. I mean, to say what he said, to say that it is far right to jump on a bandwagon to call for an inquiry suggests that he is in a different world to most of us. And to not accept that there should be some criticism as well. I mean, he came out defending the safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips. Understandably, some of that criticism crosses a line, perhaps goes into threats, but we haven't seen that.
But I'm more interested in the kids that were abused rather than Jess Phillips.
Most of his answer to those questions yesterday were about protecting his own reputation, defending Jess Phillips. That's what he got most passionate about. He did talk about the kids, but you didn't really see the same level of passion as in defending his own reputation.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Elon Musk. I mean, in my view, Elon Musk is a rich Egypt. That's what he is. Why do I care what Elon Musk says? He is, as I call him, he's like a Bond villain. He's got so much money. You know, he just sits there and strokes a cat and whatever. Who cares what Elon Musk says?
Well, that's the thing. It's, the Labour Party, when they are in government, they should not be derailed by the ramblings of a tech billionaire. He's tweeting. He's probably tweeting right now as we speak. He's been on an absolute rampage over this issue. But they do have to recognise where there's a strength of feeling that is shared more broadly in the country. So, it doesn't really matter what Elon Musk says. Elon Musk is not going to...
It matters to Keir Starmer, obviously.
It seems to have rattled him quite substantially for him to come out swinging in this way.
Yeah, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, meanwhile, trying to calm the storm. She's announcing tougher sentences for groomers, also making it mandatory for if you work with children and you are privy to sexual abuse going on, you have to report it. Is that going to be enough?
Well, I think it will do some good because one of the key problems with the grooming gangs was that these cases were reported. They were in absolutely plain sight. So many people in authority knew about them and yet ignored them. So it would be good to see those people, if that were to ever happen again, it'd be good to see those people locked up for their failures to protect children. But is it enough? I think it's not really grappling with the key issue or the key reason why this failure went on for so long, and that is to do with the sensitivities around race. And that's the thing that has to be confronted, and that's the thing that I think that Labour is most nervous about confronting.
So you've heard what Fraser's had to say there. Give us a comment, give us a view about this. Fraser's going to come back again after the 7 o'clock start of the programme, and we're going to talk about this again. But what do you think about the way this has been handled? What do you think should be done about this? What do you think about the reaction to Elon Musk? Everything. Let us know.
Yes, Keir Starmer saying that those calling for a national inquiry are jumping on the far-right bandwagon. Let us know what you think. Well, commenting on the criticism of Ms Phillips from Elon Musk, the Home Secretary has said that the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls has dedicated her career to tackling sexual violence and abuse and to being a voice for victims and survivors of the most terrible crimes, including child sexual abuse.
A government spokesperson from the Home Office said the following: no child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation, and it's paramount we do more to protect vulnerable children, which is why we are working at pace across government to drive forward real action to implement the recommendations of the independent inquiry.
Well, it's 17 minutes past 6. Let's take a look at some other stories coming to the newsroom this morning.
Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has announced his resignation after nearly a decade at the helm. In his farewell speech, he spoke of internal battles his party was facing, Canada's opposition party's plan to force a confidence vote when Parliament resumes in March, and that will pave the way for a spring election.
Today marks 10 years since the massacre by 2 gunmen at the Paris offices of the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. The paper has released a special edition marking 10 years since the attack.
Storm Blair has swept across America with 5 people confirmed dead. 7 states have declared emergencies, 60 million people impacted by snow, which is expected to reach almost 35 centimetres.
At least 53 people have been killed following a 6.8 magnitude earthquake in China. Surveillance cameras capture the moment it struck in the region of Tibet. We'll keep you updated with the latest. And it's very cold here, isn't it? Nothing like what we're seeing in the US,
no.
Thankfully. But let's get all the details now, shall we, with Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cold start with frost and ice in places, also some snow showers which may lead to some disruption. Plenty of sunshine around, though it is going to be feeling cold. Plenty of showers feeding into northern and northwestern parts, these falling as snow, not just over hills but to lower levels too, particularly across Wales and at times central parts of England too. A chance this could lead to some disruption also. Away from these showers though, there'll be plenty of dry weather, plenty of sunshine, though it is going to be feeling cold. Highs only reaching around 6 to 7 Celsius across the south, but not really pushing much past 2 to 3 Celsius in northern areas. And with that added wind chill, that is going to make things feel even colder. Then to end the day, across Scotland, we're still going to see plenty of these snow showers feeding in, likely adding to accumulations that we've already seen across northern parts of Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still seeing a good influx of these showers moving through, likely drier in the far east of northern parts of England. And similar across Wales, still seeing plenty of these snow showers, the driest and brightest of the weather likely across the very far southeast. But into the evening, we are still likely to see plenty of clear spells. So once again, another sharp frost and likely seeing further icy stretches by the time we reach the morning. And it's not going to be completely dry. We're still going to see a continuation of these showers, particularly moving into northwestern parts, still falling as snow. But many towns and cities widely dropping below zero, particularly in rural spots where it's likely to be especially cold. Then to start on Wednesday, we see more of the same. Once again, plenty of sunshine to start, though still seeing a feed of those snow showers into the northwest. And then a chance we could see some outbreaks of snow falling into southern counties too, though there is slightly lower confidence as to exactly whereabouts the snow will be, though there is a snow warning issued across the far south. And for many of us, once again, it is going to be a cold end to the day. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
No, associated with the weather, wait till you hear this story. You couldn't make it up. You couldn't really. Tell us more.
This caught our eye this morning, didn't it? So train services were cancelled at the weekend after a trade union told drivers not to walk in the snow, because they might fall over and hurt themselves.
So to get to your cab,
you need to walk through the snow. So ASLEF, the trade union, told their drivers, don't risk it, don't walk through the snow. So 10 drivers didn't walk out into the snow, meaning that 14 services were cancelled at the weekend.
I mean,
drivers refused
whatever
to walk
happened
to their
to public service?
Well, there wasn't a lot of that going on, it would seem. This is Network Rail data. It's on the front page of the Telegraph today. And these drivers were among those given a 15% pay rise last year. So they're earning 70 grand a year.
But didn't cover walking in snow.
Oh, but it gets better. So this refusal is part of this new package. It's called Spanish practices. So you don't walk out on snowy walkways, because obviously that's very dangerous. Another practice is that you restart your break if a boss interrupts your break. So if a boss comes and says, "Hi, Eamonn, how are you? How's your day been? How's the family?" You go, "Oh, we'll start that break again. We'll start our hour again."
So you can't be civil, you can't have small talk.
No conversations with the bosses during a break.
What is going on with the world? Let us know what you think. We're back out after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Dora Carrington is not known to lots of people, and very few pieces are in public collections. So you have had a great deal of work to do to put this exhibition together.
Absolutely. It's been, next year, it will be 30 years since the last major exhibition of Carrington's work, which happened in 1995 at the Barbican Gallery. And I guess if people know Carrington's work, they might have seen the film that took place that year, that came out that year, starring Emma Thompson as Carrington and Jonathan Pryce as Lytton Strachey, who was her main kind of key relationship in her life. And that, in a way, dramatised a lot of those relationships. And so people will often know her life as much as her art. There's only 16 works in public collections, and so apart from chances such as the big billboard campaign you mentioned 10 years ago, there have been very few chances to actually see her work in the flesh. And so what this exhibition does is bring together around 80 works by Carrington and a few of her key contemporaries, providing a new generation really a chance to see and enjoy her work. She was one of the most remarkable of her generation at the Slade School of Art. She won several prizes for her drawing and her draftsmanship. And in the first room of the exhibition, we have some of the work, for example, a couple of female nudes that she painted when she was at the Slade, and they really are kind of quite outstanding.
One of the things that's been said is that in her landscapes, she's sometimes painting the human body as well as the landscape. Is that something that occurred to you? Can you stand up that?
Yes, I mean, one of her most famous paintings we have of Spain has. It's very much like you could liken it to the female form. You know, the kind of the
delicately put.
Yes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, the disruption by the snow and the bad weather, the rain and whatever, tell us this one.
Yeah, is this a dream or is this a nightmare? Since Saturday night, 23 people have been stuck in a pub in North Yorkshire. This is the Tan Hill Inn. It is 1,732 feet above sea level, and they all got into the pub on Saturday night and they have been cut off ever since because of all of the snow.
So they're in the pub and they can't get out?
Yeah, there's 23 guests.
As long as there's food and drink.
6 staff. Well,
and
yes.
a fire.
Yeah, they said the 3 real fires are running. The staff are a little bit tired, but other than that, they're all right. And they say there's food there for a month and enough beer for 2 weeks.
But if the staff were railway drivers, train drivers, they would say, we're not getting involved in this.
We're not getting involved.
We wouldn't be working.
Couldn't possibly walk in the snow. No. But everything's going well, apparently. There's enough food for a month and enough beer for 2 weeks.
OK.
And they say nobody's in any rush to go anywhere, which is very British, I think.
It is bad, though. More than 100 people have been rescued from floods. This is in Lincolnshire and across Leicestershire as well. Something I think is really stupid. They're talking about yellow warnings are still in place. What the heck is a yellow warning? And what is the difference between an amber warning and a yellow warning? Well, I just want to know if it's bad, very bad, go out, don't go out. It's a yellow warning, Eamonn. Is that worse than a green warning or a red warning? I presume red is bad.
I'd assume so, on a traffic light
So what's
system.
yellow compared to amber?
Well, it's a great question for the weather journalist, Nathan Rao.
OK, let's go there.
Nathan, what are the yellow warnings all about?
Good morning, Eamonn. You have got me chomping at the bit to answer your question for you. A yellow warning, right. A yellow warning, I always think of these more as advisories. I think the Met Office gets a lot of stick for putting out warnings, which seem to be these stay-at-home warnings. A yellow warning is the lowest level of advisory, letting people know that there is going to be more snow and ice down the west coast of the country in the next day or so. The amber warning is one step above this, and they are graded on the impact of the disruption they are likely to have. And as you said, Eamonn, you're quite right. A red warning, and we had a red warning for wind a couple of weeks ago with one of the storms, is the most severe of warnings. So at the moment, we're at the lowest level of warning, which is more of an advisory to let the public know that there is going to be an ongoing risk of snow and ice down the west coast of the country, western Scotland, Wales and the southwest, after the very, very cold and wintry snap we had at the weekend, to advise that there's going to be some ongoing disruption as we go into the weekend when it's going to calm down a bit. But certainly for the next few days, flooding across Leicestershire and Lincolnshire is going to be an issue. Hundreds of Environment Agency flood alerts are still in place, and I expect they're going to remain in place. And they do warn of a danger to life and a severe disruption because of the flooding as the river levels rise because of the very, very heavy rain that we've had over the last few days. And of course, now, as we go into a slightly milder period at the end of this week, the snow melt. So I hope that has cleared up your question, Eamonn. Crystal clear.
Yeah, no, very good, Nathan, as usual, very good.
Yeah.
But, my friend, what is worse, to have snow or to have rain? That's the thing. I'm sitting here. I know when the snow melts, that turns to water, and that may be a problem. But which is the worst of those conditions?
Well, I'd imagine if you want to catch the train, it's going to be the snow because the drivers aren't allowed to walk in the snow. And it all boils down to where you are in the country. If you are in a part of the country that is susceptible to flooding, then both are going to be a danger because as well as the rain that we've had, and if you get the snow, then you're always going to get the snow melt afterwards. So places that are on floodplains, places that are susceptible to flooding, are going to be at a greater danger of flooding through both of those weather scenarios. Of course, in places like Town Hill Pub, that you mentioned where the snow falls and those areas that are likely to be cut off because of heavy snowfall, these are the rural areas that tend to be in Scotland and the north of the country that are not only susceptible to the heaviest of snowfall but also have the less that have major roads running into them. They are going to be more at risk of the snow. All that said, as we go into the weekend, the weather is going to calm down slightly, and we're going to come out of this sort of winter, stormy, snowy period to a slightly settled period of weather. But the flooding is going to be an issue across Leicestershire, across Lincolnshire, as we go through the week. And that is because flooding tends to have a lag effect. When the rain comes, it takes several days for the river levels to sink again and for the water tables to sink. They're also very high at the moment. So flooding is also going to be an ongoing effect. I must also point out that there is a UK Health Security Agency for cold weather into the weekend, and that is just to let elderly and vulnerable people know that with these very cold temperatures, they should ensure that they heat their homes to 18 degrees C, which is where the challenge lies.
OK, Nathan, good man. Thanks for putting us well and truly in the picture there. We've got to leave it there. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, how about starting your new year with an incredible £50,000 in cash from us? Well, it could all be yours in our biggest Great British giveaway so far. Here are all the details that you need.
Well, we're just trying to work out if I'm getting more bad luck. Should my Christmas tree be down?
See, I think you're meant to take your Christmas tree down by Twelfth Night, which is the Epiphany, which was yesterday.
Oh, well,
yes.
I'm in
Taken
trouble.
down by January 5th or 6th. Why is yours still up?
Yeah.
Eamonn, no.
But anyway, so what do you do? How do you get rid of it? What's going on in your house? Is there an etiquette to all of this? Right, so do you put it out with the bins? Do you give it to the bin man? Or what do you do? Well, a man with the answers to all of this, Senior Policy and Campaigns Manager, Alex Clark. Good morning, Alex. Big dilemma for many people. What's your advice?
Thank you. Yes, so sadly, taking the Christmas trees down now after the fun festive period. What we see at guide dogs is that in many cases, when these are left on the pavement, these can create a hazard and a serious obstacle for someone with a vision impairment. So what we're trying to do is raise awareness and ask people just to be considerate when they are disposing of their Christmas tree, make sure it's not blocking the path in any way. This could potentially force someone with a vision impairment out into the street, making them have to choose to go into potentially oncoming traffic with little awareness of what could potentially be coming, or potentially blocking their journey completely.
How would you recommend that people get rid of them safely? Should they be taking them to their nearest refuse centre, or what would you recommend?
So there's often a few different options available depending on where you are locally. Many local councils will offer either a collection service, or they may offer a drop-off point that you can take the Christmas tree to. Similarly, some local organisations or charities may also offer a drop-off point that you can take the Christmas tree to, along with a small suggested donation. If it is a drop-off, if it is a collection, we do ask that if you could be mindful about where you're placing the tree ahead of collection, making sure it's not blocking the path or putting it out at the last possible moment.
So there are options. Alex, appreciate you letting us know that and into that. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Or you could do what I do, which is I never buy a real Christmas tree.
Neither do I. Why don't you buy a real Christmas tree?
Because I prefer the artificial ones.
So do I. Why do you prefer them?
Well, mine have got built-in lights, for instance, fibre optic lights there.
Exactly.
And you just put the balls on and things afterwards. It just looks lovely. It looks even, it looks precise.
It's the symmetry, yes.
I quite like
can't bear a real tree because I like everything to be perfect and it just to look perfect on
and I think that it's wasteful. I think all that, but you're growing stuff you don't have to, you're chopping it down you don't have to. It's just me. I think it's a lot of waste associated with it.
It divides people. Let us know if you had a real or a fake one, but you're in luck. Medieval tradition, you keep your decorations up till the 2nd of February.
2nd of February?
Yeah.
That's a bit much, maybe.
That's when Candlemas is. 40 days since Christmas. Apparently it's very good luck to do so there you go, you're fine.
Going to be 40 days till Christmas again, right after that. We're back after this, Paul, with the sport.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. A number of roads across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England are either closed or impassable because of snow, especially over high ground. A number of roads across parts of the Midlands are closed or impassable because of flooding, including the A1 each way through Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire. Southbound's closed from the Claypool turnoff to Marston, and northbound's closed from the Melton Mowbray turnoff near Grantham to Long Bennington. The M6 in the West Midlands is partly blocked northbound by an accident between junctions 6 and 7. North of Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, causing queues, and train services in Cornwall are suspended between Liscard and Looe, and that is because of flooding. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Joining me now is food historian and author of Christmas with Dickens, Pen Vogler. Pen, let's start with Christmas Carol. Did A Christmas Carol change Britain's view of Christmas?
I think it did, enormously. Before then, people were beginning to think, as they do now, that Christmas might be being a little bit commercial. It was too much food and drink, not enough kind of seriousness or not enough kind of love and family. And what Dickens did with A Christmas Carol was show people who were coming to the cities, who were kind of losing their rural history, a new way of celebrating Christmas, that a real, just a family could get together and love and kind of get around the table together. And whereas before, a lot of those kind of Christmas dishes would have been seasonal, lots of people would have eaten them at different times of the year, Dickens does two things. He takes the goose, which is what the Cratchits are going to eat, and he turns it to a turkey, much bigger, meatier, kind of more generous. And then he takes this thing that he never calls Christmas pudding in A Christmas Carol. There's no Christmas pudding. He only calls it plum pudding, and he anchors it to that day. And interestingly, after then, people start publishing recipes for Christmas pudding, and it starts getting its name, Christmas pudding, from plum pudding. And I think all of that really comes from A Christmas Carol.
You say becomes a Christmas pudding almost immediately after A Christmas Carol is published.
Yes, I mean, it's occasionally called Christmas pudding before, but not often. And then a very famous for the time, the kind of Delia Smith of her day, lady called Eliza Acton, publishes a recipe called The Author's Christmas Pudding in 1845. And we know she's a big Dickens fan because she sent a copy of her cookbook to him.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Just looking at the football. Oh, what's happened to this?
Hey!
That's a bit weird.
Oh, dear.
Feel dizzy.
Yeah.
Just looking at the football results last night, Nottingham Forest will have whatever they're taking.
I know, it really is. This is like the old days. Do you know what? It's 50 years to the day that Brian Clough took over at Nottingham Forest at the City Ground. And the way things are going at the moment, it's just out of this. And nobody can believe how well it's going. But it's our friend, Nuno
The Holy Ghost.
Nuno.
Yeah.
Espirito Santo. You know what? I interviewed him once. I spent an hour with Nuno. And he's got a fantastic... We've got a picture of Nuno in the beard. He's got this fantastic beard. Look, there it is. And he you know what he carried in his pocket? A beard brush. So before he was ready to be filmed, he'd do the old beard, so the beard is always in perfect condition.
See, I don't think I would ever suit a beard.
See, I can't grow a beard.
Can't, yeah.
But I think you... Why do you not think you...
They're itchy, they're scratchy.
How far have you got with a beard before? Have you got... No?
Well, I've had a beard.
You have had a beard?
Yeah.
What do you think, Ellie? Do you think...
Clean shaven's nice on both of you, I think. I don't think there's any
You don't
need.
think?
I don't think there's any need for a beard. There are a lot of upkeep, aren't there? You need things like a beard brush.
Yeah, a beard... See, I didn't even think
and
of
hair oil, I've heard.
All that work that goes into a beard takes a lot of time.
Now, there's a brilliant thing happening in the Carabao Cup this week, and that is we as viewers at home, we as viewers in the stadium are going to hear what the referee has to say when.
Right, if there's a decision that goes to VAR, because often if you're in the stadium, you have no idea what's going on. If you watch it on TV, usually you have some idea, but now the referees are going to be given a voice. Just for more clarity, it's the PGMOL are saying that, therefore, we will be able to hear the referee. They trialled it in rugby, so he'll now have a microphone. It's Craig Pawson is tonight, so it's Arsenal versus Newcastle, which is the first semi-final, and then it's Spurs-Liverpool on Wednesday. So there will, if there's a VAR check, so if there's an offence committed... or not, as the case may be, if the referee then walks over to his screen, has a look, he will be able to say, right, it's player number so-and-so, and say who the player is, and the decision is, and this is the reason. So we will all see that, which I think is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing, too.
You know, we talk about trying to keep the game moving, but at least there won't be any interaction broadcast. So when you see they'll be talking to linesmen or talking to people at Stockley Park for VAR, we won't hear that, but the referee will then announce what the decision is and why and who.
Gotcha.
Which I think is a good idea. Yeah,
gotcha.
So that's gonna start tonight. Graham Potter looks like he's been offered the West Ham job. Julian Lopetegui, this is a man who's, you know, he's honestly, he's been walking on thin ice for a while. They've shipped 9 goals in the last couple of games. It's not going well at West Ham. See, look, the face sums it up. There he is, head in hands. So, Julian Lopetegui, it hasn't been announced yet by West Ham, but I think it's probably going to happen today or tomorrow, whether he's going to be in charge for the next game, which is going to be in the FA Cup, which is Aston Villa on Friday. Very unlikely, I think.
Potter's a good signing, isn't he?
Graham Potter is the perfect person to come into... Potter, the perfect person. There's too many P's going on. But anyway, he'll looks like he's going to be coming in. So I think that's going to be very
Paul, got to leave it there, my friend. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Coity. Still to come, do stay with us. Jonathan Ashworth and Laura McKevitt are going through the papers with us. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're on the hunt for some winter sun, I'm afraid it's often going to be cloudy, also with some rain. Largely dry across central areas, but it is going to be windy at times. Some cloud and rain moving into parts of Madeira and Lisbon, though largely dry across Tenerife and largely dry across central areas of the Mediterranean too. But as we move further east, more cloud for parts of Italy and also Greece, and this could be thick enough to produce some rain at times. More in the way of sunshine towards the end of the week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, it's interesting because I haven't actually been told specifically what I've done, which has resulted in me being removed from my committee position, which was head of daytime. I started a podcast in September in which I interviewed Charlie Bentley-Astor, who's a detransitioner. I then also interviewed Graham Linehan, and I wrote an article for his Substack. And shortly after that, I was told that I had been suspended, and the university union started an investigation into me. And that very quickly became apparent to me that it was an interrogation of my gender-critical views rather than any sort of misconduct that I had been alleged to.
Right. And Graham Linehan has been outspoken on issues relating to transgender ism, whatever you want to call it, gender ideology. And so perhaps just by having associated yourself with him as a controversial figure, that was why the investigation happened, you suspect?
Yes, and already it's quite clear that guilt by association is a crime that you can commit within university societies. I actually purchased my free speech union membership way before this all happened, when a friend helped me edit the episode with Charlie, and he got in trouble with a separate society who told him that he must disassociate himself from me, and if he didn't, further measures would be taken. So at that point, I thought, wow, I better put some damage control in place and purchase my membership in case anything happens to me.
So this decision is made by the student union, right? Is that made up of fellow students? Or who's making this call?
Well, that's actually part of my appeal, so the process has been completely improper. They haven't followed their own guidelines. There are two different guidelines as to whether a complaint is dealt with the society itself, so Leeds Student Radio, or the union, and it's basically been a mishmash of both. So it's been an improper procedure, but it is, as far as I'm aware, it's the student union who's decided to remove me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you. We're delighted to welcome for the first time on GB News Jonathan Ashworth, former Shadow Paymaster General, and Laura McKevitt, who's a former Conservative advisor. Is that what you'd call you? Yeah.
That's right.
So basically what will happen is the audience today will love everything you're going to say and they'll have no time for him.
You don't know what I'm going to say yet.
That is very true.
I don't know that that's
And I've always found you very, very reasonable to talk to. So we're going to talk about Keir Starmer, first of all. So basically, I'll just summarise this. He's saying if you're in favour of a grooming inquiry, a child grooming inquiry, you are jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
Oh, come off it. He's not saying that. What he was making the point yesterday is that this is obviously this is a very serious issue. And at our forefront of your minds when we're discussing this should be the children who have been abused in the most disgusting, evil way. We've had a very big national inquiry into that. None of the recommendations of that national inquiry, which reported, 3 or 4 years ago, have actually been implemented, astonishingly. The government is now getting on with implementing them. But he was making the point that there are figures on the far right out there who are trying to whip this up, and that when politicians talk about this, they should be very careful about the language that they use, not to fan the flames of the far right. He's not saying that people who are concerned about this are far right, and I think it's a subtly different point he was making, and I think there's a bit of mischief.
Why have we to worry about what point he's making at all? The last inquiry looked at 5 cities or 5 regions. There's up to 50 involved in this. That looks like a deficit to me, and really all I'm interested in is that the children will be well served. The areas that they're in will be examined and say, this is not going to happen here again. Why does he not just say, yeah, it's a good idea, we'll do this everywhere else as well?
Because the government would say that their concern is the children as well. Certainly my concern, by the way, because these crimes are heinous. I mean, evil. I mean, when I read the reports, it makes my blood boil, frankly. I mean, as I'm sure your viewers would agree. I mean, he's making the point there has been a big national inquiry, and not a single one of the recommendations of that national inquiry were implemented. So he's now implementing them, like the
that's
mandatory
something
reporting.
you'll point the finger at the Conservatives about. So this was like 7 years ago.
Well, I think it was 2022, the national inquiry came out, made a whole series of very important recommendations about mandatory reporting, about the law, about the way in which the different authorities should react when reports are brought to them. Not one of them, not a jot, has been implemented. He's saying we've got to get on and implement those recommendations.
But does he
now.
look out of touch in the meantime with the public for smearing politicians who do want a national inquiry for what they're criticising, as Eamonn just said, for that scope of that investigation being too narrow?
Well, I think what's got his go is that, Kemi Badenoch saying, let's have a national inquiry. She was a big cheese in the previous government. She sat around the cabinet table. What did she do?
Lauren.
Nothing.
What's your take on it?
I think there's several issues that kind of are at a confluence with this particular problem. The first is a historic failure of the British state to really ever look after women and girls in relation to rape and sexual assault within communities, within police forces, within the justice system, all of which is even more pronounced when you become to very vulnerable girls within the system. Secondly, there is a race issue that is hard to touch from everybody across all departments. This is an issue where, are we looking at a particular section of the community within Britain? And if so, how is it that we address issues around integration within that community sensitively in a way that doesn't, frankly, incite a race riot in parts of the country? And thirdly, and I think this is actually the most important, but perhaps the most nuanced and boring point, over the course of the last 30 years, as a nation, we have developed a governance system that specialises in covering its own backside. And so ministers sit at the top of departments and receive letters up from their various civil servants and say, right, this is reported, and we recommend you do the following thing, sign here, and this letter will go off. And the ministers take on good faith that means that every department is talking to itself and every department is talking to the other departments that are involved in this. And frankly, as we see from inquiry after inquiry after inquiry, that doesn't happen very often. Now, we are a nation of inquiries. If you go back to 1915, we had the Dardanelles Commission, which looked at Gallipoli and didn't report until 1919. We have always learned as a nation from the concept of inquiries. However, it strikes me that over the last 30 years, the other form of learning that has developed across governments in this country is how to avoid inquiries and how to basically cover their backsides to the level where they end up doing nothing and spinning their wheels. The Casey report should have had, in my opinion, a better response from my party in government the last time around. I think that we are on slightly thin ice on politicising an issue that we probably didn't do enough on. Mm-hmm. But I also think that there is a slapdash response to what Keir Starmer has done over the course of last week that's probably dangerous.
Now, that brings me to another point. Elon Musk sticking his nose in. Should we care, Jonathan?
Should we care? I don't think we should get... Politicians probably need to sort of, ignore him. He's attention-seeking. He's a bit of a blowhard, trying to get lots of attention. I mean, my word, he didn't half-hand Nigel Farage his backside on a plate over the weekend, didn't he? I mean, Nigel was on the TV in the morning saying that Elon Musk was a hero. By mid-afternoon, Elon Musk is saying Nigel hasn't got it. We need another leader of reform.
Apparently they've kissed and made up now, though.
Really?
Allegedly.
Yeah, Elon Musk was retweeting Nigel Farage again last night.
Oh, so they're bosom pals again, are they?
Again, yeah.
Look, I think the best thing for politicians to do with Elon Musk is completely ignore him. He's like an attention-seeking child in all this.
Ditto Andrew Tate, who now wants to run to be Prime Minister, which is not a position you can actually run to be.
Yes.
You do have to run a party first. You also, I think, have to not be under house arrest in Romania. Yeah. So I think there's several barriers to entry there.
Did you see on his poll, he did a poll on X last night saying he wants to be Prime Minister.
Scientific,
yes
obviously,
no?
well-weighted.
Didn't spell Britain right.
Excellent.
Yes, spelled Britain. How long have we got? Oh, I think we need to go to the weather. Yeah, sorry, guys. We'll see you in the next hour. Thank you very much. Let's get the weather now with Honor.
Just when we're getting...
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cold start with frost and ice in places, also some snow showers which may lead to some disruption. Plenty of sunshine around, though it is going to be feeling cold. Plenty of showers feeding into northern and northwestern parts, these falling as snow, not just over hills but to lower levels too, particularly across Wales and at times central parts of England too. A chance this could lead to some disruption also. Away from these showers though, there'll be plenty of dry weather, plenty of sunshine, though it is going to be feeling cold. Highs only reaching around 6 to 7 Celsius across the south, but not really pushing much past 2 to 3 Celsius in northern areas. And with that added wind chill, that is going to make things feel even colder. Then to end the day across Scotland, we're still going to see plenty of these snow showers feeding in, likely adding to accumulations that we've already seen across northern parts of Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still seeing a good influx of these showers moving through, likely drier in the far east of northern parts of England. And similar across Wales, still seeing plenty of these snow showers, the driest and brightest of the weather likely across the very far southeast. But into the evening, we are still likely to see plenty of clear spells. So once again, another sharp frost and likely seeing further icy stretches by the time we reach the morning. And it's not going to be completely dry. We're still going to see a continuation of these showers, particularly moving into northwestern parts, still falling as snow. But many towns and cities widely dropping below zero, particularly in rural spots where it's likely to be especially cold. Then to start on Wednesday, we see more of the same. Once again, plenty of sunshine to start, though still seeing a feed of those snow showers into the northwest. And then a chance we could see some outbreaks of snow falling into southern counties too, though there is slightly lower confidence as to exactly whereabouts the snow will be, though there is a snow warning issued across the far south. And for many of us, once again, it is going to be a cold end to the day. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell. Holding a number of roads across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England, especially over high ground, are either closed or impassable because of snow. It's also widespread flooding across parts of mostly the Midlands, with the A1 closed each way through Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire. Southbound's closed from the Claypole turnoff to the Marston turnoff. Northbound's closed from the Melton Mowbray turnoff to Long Bennington. In the West Midlands, the A41 is closed for an investigation along Bilston Road in Wolverhampton. The West Midlands Metro service is suspended between Priestfield and Wolverhampton St George's, and the M6 in the West Midlands is partly blocked northbound by an accident between junctions 6 and 7 from Spaghetti Junction to the A34 near Birmingham, causing queues. And train services in Cornwall are suspended between Liskeard and Loo because of flooding.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Imagine how 50,000Good luck.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The grooming gang's fallout rumbles on.
The Prime Minister is accused of dismissing calls for a national inquiry. He says if you're into that, you're far right.
Politicians who sat in government for many years, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Well, the Home Secretary's tried to calm the storm by announcing tougher sentences for groomers. We're asking this morning, is it too little, too late?
Robert Jenrick, he's the Shadow Justice Secretary, and he'll be here to answer that question in a few minutes' time.
The Lib Dems call for a complete overhaul of support for carers as they bring attention to sandwich carers. They're the squeezed middle, responsible for both their children and their parents.
10 years today since Islamist terrorists attacked the newspaper Charlie Hebdo in Paris. We remember those who lost their lives as the publication releases a special edition.
Is Elon Musk a liability to Donald Trump? We're debating that as European leaders accuse the world's richest man of foreign interference.
On the weather front, Lincolnshire and Leicestershire declare major incidents, rain and snow across those counties. The body of a man has been recovered in North Yorkshire.
And in sport this morning, Nottingham Forest win their 6th game in a row as they move to within 6 points now at the top of the Premier League. The referee will speak to us if he needs to in the first Carabao Cup semi-final between Arsenal and Newcastle tonight. And Snakebite and Bully Boy even, are dropped from the Premier League of darts.
Hello there, good morning. It's a cold and icy start, also with some snow showers in the west, and this could lead to some travel disruption. I'll be here later with all the details.
Just gone 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. A very good morning to you from me, Eamonn Holmes.
And me, Ellie Costello. And this is GB News Breakfast with Eamon and Ellie.
Now, if you were with us yesterday, we were talking about, we had a guy who washed road signs. It's better than it sounds. I mean, have a look. His name's Liam Wildish, and he goes on Instagram by the name of The Sign Guy. And there you see, I mean, that's very, very satisfying, cleaning up the dirty road signs. So it's got you thinking, Paul, hasn't it?
Well, I just think there's loads of people that do stuff like this, right? Yeah. I mean, did you do anything? Because I've mentioned earlier, I've walked past hedges round where I live and just give it a little trim.
But I could do that, and I would see that, and as long as I wasn't breaking the law or anything, I mean, that's a good public service.
Yeah, and the point about Liam Wildish is he's a volunteer. Yeah. Nobody pays him to do it. The council doesn't pay him off his own back.
That's nice.
His own time.
That's great.
Well, since
he goes and cleans up his community.
It looks lovely.
I came across Liam on Instagram, and since I did, the amount of filthy signs, and I don't mean filthy by what they show or what they say, like that simple giveaway thing. Yeah. You only realise its potential once you clean it there, and how
you can't
wonderful
unsee
it
it
is.
now.
Yeah.
Now that you've spoken to Liam, you can see all the dirty signs everywhere.
Look at that. Looks brand new. Lovely.
Yeah.
So it's inspired us, hasn't it?
It's inspired us. And look, it inspired me. There's other things I look at on Instagram. I can't tell you about them all, but here's one of them. Have a look at this. This is a horse's foot, a horse's hoof here that we're talking about. And
down, do they?
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Well, look, listen, we're asking you basically, do you have anything that you watch as a relaxation or anything that you do, perhaps serve in your community?
Yes.
Let us know today and we'll try and feature you on the programme. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, Eamonn's Community Champions, we're calling it. We'd love to hear from all of you, up and down the country, people doing amazing things for their communities, and it makes us all feel happier.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, who's standing by to talk to us this morning. Mr. Jenrick, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, we've got a busy start to the year, have we not? And all this business of Keir Starmer yesterday basically saying if you're in favour of an inquiry into the child abuse scandals, you are far right. What do you think?
I thought it was the most outrageous smear. Look, millions of people across our country want to see justice for the victims. What we're talking about here is thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of vulnerable young girls who were tortured and raped in the most horrific, evil manner in towns and cities the length and breadth of our country. And to hear the Prime Minister smearing those of us who want to see the truth emerge, I thought was absolutely disgusting. And more than just that, this was the same attitude that got us into this mess in the first place. It's because people like Keir Starmer have said you should turn a blind eye for fear of political correctness that we have seen this happen time and again, decade after decade. Well, it has to end.
Robert, why didn't it begin? Why didn't the inquiry report, why didn't you act on it as a previous government? I mean, the accusation also from Labour is, fine, at least we're doing something about it, and they accuse your Conservative government of not bothering.
Well, look, if young girls are suffering in this way today, as they certainly must be, then we have to do more. That is without question. But it's wrong to say that the last Conservative government didn't act. It was Theresa May that commissioned the reviews that first shed light on this with Professor Alexis Jay. It was Sajid Javid who mandated data collection, for example, by ethnicity, so we could understand the scale of the problem. And when I was in the Home Office, it was Suella Braverman who took real action. She created the Grooming Gangs Task Force that's led to 550 arrests and is said to have protected 4,500 victims. She was the one who drafted the law, which sadly fell away at the general election, but now Labour are going to take forward so that it is made mandatory that public officials have to report when they have suspicion of child sexual abuse, and that we make it an aggregated factor in sentencing so that the grooming gang perpetrators, these vile, evil individuals, get longer sentences than they do today. I have long advocated whole life sentences for these grooming gang perpetrators, and I've said that if they're foreign national offenders, get them out of our country, deport them, no ifs, no buts, so they never step foot on this soil of our country again. And the cowardly public officials who did turn a blind eye, they should be prosecuted as well. Not a single one has been prosecuted so far, and that is completely wrong. We need to take action, and we need now to have a full national public inquiry, because the previous report only looked at 6 towns. 6 towns. And we know, in part because of the good reporting of GB News, that this is now happening in probably 50 towns across our country, if not more. This is a massive scandal, probably the biggest racially aggravated scandal of its kind in modern history. That's why we need this full national inquiry, and we need it to start as soon as possible.
You posted on X at the weekend, didn't you, saying that this scandal started with the onset of mass migration, importing hundreds of thousands of people from alien cultures. A controversial statement, drew a lot of criticism online for that comment, Mr. Jenrick. Do you stand by that statement?
Yes, absolutely. Look, we have seen millions of people enter the UK in recent years, and some of them have backward, frankly, medieval attitudes to women. We're talking here about thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of vulnerable young girls being tortured and raped. I will not disguise or sanitize my language simply to ensure that some people are not offended. We must ensure that we speak the truth, and are brave in this situation, because we got into this mess because people tried to hide away from the truth, tiptoe around this issue. This is why we need to have the full national inquiry now, so we can fully understand what has actually happened in this country, and we can ensure it doesn't happen again.
OK. Robert, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to bring in Charlie Peters, our reporter on this, who's been uncovering a lot of what's going on. And you just got credit there from the Shadow Secretary of State there, Charlie. What do you make of what happened yesterday and the way things are going?
Well, Eamonn and Ellie, I want to bring in the voice of a survivor to this discussion. Let's hear the words of Elizabeth from Rotherham. She's a brave survivor who endured appalling abuse 20 years ago, which was ignored by the authorities. It was so awful that when her father tried to rescue her from a den where she was being kept and exploited, he was threatened with arrest. That was how badly the police were covering up the issue in that South Yorkshire town. Well, this morning she told me, yesterday I was so angry, and I still am. One thing that really got me was the labelling of far right for people speaking up on this issue. It's not far right to care, and it's not far right to want answers. I'm fighting for our rights. I have to say that Elizabeth's statement there is echoed by many more survivors and campaigners that I've been speaking to since Sir Keir Starmer's intervention on this issue yesterday morning. There is widespread anger on this topic, I have to say. I've yet to hear from a survivor who supports the Prime Minister's statements yesterday, attacking people calling for a national public inquiry as jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. Another survivor who doesn't even have a name that they use to cover their real identity, so afraid is she of her perpetrators, many of whom are still walking freely around north of England. She told me that she was astonished by the intervention from the Prime Minister. She thought it was an appallingly offensive line to use. She described it also as a smear against survivors and campaigners who have been shouting about this crisis for decades in spite of widespread opposition from many people who have tried to shut down this conversation. Indeed, that has been a problem within the Labour Party. Anne Cryer, the Labour MP for Keighley in the 2000s, she was called a racist when she tried to raise this. Jack Straw, he was called racist when he tried to raise this. Sarah Champion, she was kicked out of the Labour front bench when she tried to raise this. Many campaigners saying that Labour Party has got an issue with silencing those who dissent against the stance on child sexual exploitation.
OK, Charlie Peters there for us in Oldham. Thank you very much for all your hard work on all of this.
Here in the studio we have, who have we got now? Fraser Myers, Deputy Editor of Spiked magazine. Fraser, you were on an hour ago and we were talking a lot here. Basically, people are incensed by the way Keir Starmer seems to have handled this, taking it all personally, making this about him, whereas a lot of people are saying, as Robert Jendrick were saying, they looked at 6 areas, 6 towns, 6 cities, and they should have been looking at close on 60.
Yeah, I think people are absolutely right to be outraged by Keir Starmer's comments. I think suggesting that anyone who's interested in a public inquiry is jumping on a far-right bandwagon is an insult to the nation. It's an insult to the victims. It's an insult to all the good people out there who care very deeply about this issue and who care very passionately about the fact that this has been... Not only did these girls suffer this appalling abuse over many years, thousands and thousands of girls, but the fact that it was so systematically covered up. And as you say, Eamonn, you know, we did have this national inquiry into child abuse, but this was not launched to do with grooming gangs. So Labour is being very dishonest when they say that this is about the inquiry is about grooming gangs. It was actually launched in relation to the false allegations made by Carl Beach, the fantasist who accused essentially higher-ups in Westminster of running a paedophile ring. Yeah. That was the basis of the inquiry. It then expanded to cover many real and tragic cases, but it was mostly about institutional failures. It was about cases of abuse in the home. What it didn't deal with is this specific form of crime of grooming gangs, where we've seen group sexual exploitation essentially allowed to carry on in plain sight because of a nervousness about the ethnicity of the perpetrators. That is the repeated thing that comes up again and again and again. The perpetrators are the wrong race, therefore we cannot intervene. The other factor as well is, of course, as well as them being the wrong kind of perpetrators, we had the wrong kind of victims. White working class girls, people who are looked down upon, girls who are treated and seen by the liberal elites as scum, and their communities are seen as scum and are seen as not worth listening to, not worth engaging in. They were assumed to be racist often. They were assumed to be pandering to the far right, simply by raising their own stories. So for Keir Starmer to compound that is I think, shocking.
The racism thing. I just roll my eyes in my head. It's either coming from the Pakistani community, it's embedded in there, or it's not. And it seems all the evidence says this comes from the Pakistani community. There's something there in the DNA that says this is OK. Women are allowed to go on, sisters are allowed to go on, daughters are allowed to go on. So it's being there in society. Now, why don't we just, I don't know what the community relations are like, but why don't we just go around and knock doors on Pakistani community things and say, oi, we know this is going on. You know who it's coming from, because they do know who it's coming from. I mean, I've spoken to so many people about this, and these people, they hang out in news agencies, they hang out in gyms. They love the idea of being there, and nobody seems to say, oh, well, he's just taking a 12-year-old girl in there and giving her lots of sweeties and things like that.
Well, we can't say that all Pakistani men...
We're not saying that. I'm saying that. But why do we do this blooming apology thing all the time? It is coming from the Pakistani community.
Predominantly,
Predominantly.
The issue, I mean, actually, the answer is quite simple. When someone looks as if they are, when you suspect someone of a crime, arrest them, interview them. That's what's not been happening. What's been happening is that these crimes have been taking place in plain sight, and then the police officers or social workers have noticed, they're Pakistani Muslims, we shouldn't interfere. I think if you just started arresting the people who are accused of these things, then you'd get half the way. I don't know what the cause of this is. I don't know what it is about potentially, some cultures. I don't know what the cause is, but the issue is thanks to kind of multiculturalism, basically, we don't treat people equally. We don't. We treat people differently according to their race. In the 20th century, we used to be racist and we used to treat people harshly if they were ethnic minorities. Today, it seems as if you can get a free pass if you're an ethnic minority. That is always going to be wrong. Start treating people equally, start treating these survivors seriously, and then we've really dealt with the problem.
Labour are talking about longer prison sentences for child groomers, and for anyone working with children who fail to report child sexual abuse now need to face prosecution. Is that too little too late, would you say?
I think so. I mean, it's 20 years too late, certainly, but it is welcome. The key issue here was that this abuse was able to continue under the nose of the authorities because people simply did not report it or did not raise it or escalate it. So that's clearly something that needs to be dealt with. But, I was thinking then when Yvette Cooper making her emergency announcement yesterday in the Commons at the end of the day, is she not also jumping on the far-right bandwagon by suddenly diving into this issue? Clearly, they understand on one level that there is a strength of national feeling and it needs to be addressed. But at the same time, I think Labour seems more concerned with the discourse around it, having a pop at Elon Musk, having a pop at the Tories, not really taking this issue seriously, not really confronting the issue head on.
Fraser, appreciate your take on things. Thank you very much indeed. What are the government saying about this officially? The Home Office released the following statement. No child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation. It's paramount we do more to protect vulnerable children, which is why we're working at pace across government to drive forward real action to implement the recommendations of the independent inquiry.
And commenting on the criticism of Ms Phillips from Elon Musk, the Home Secretary has said that the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls has dedicated her career to tackling sexual violence and abuse and to being a voice for victims and survivors of the most terrible crimes, including child sexual abuse.
19 minutes now past 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Thank you for your company, wherever, however you're listening to us, on your television, on your radio, online, via your smartphone, or you can say, what are those devices you say to?
Play GB News on your smart speaker.
Play GB News.
Yeah,
there
got
you
no
go.
excuse. Yeah, you can take us with us this
Put
morning.
that
can't you?
Ellie and Eamonn on the telly. That's what you want to be doing there. And if you do that, we'd be very appreciative. And one of the things you'll hear is the weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cold start with frost and ice in places, also some snow showers which may lead to some disruption. Plenty of sunshine around, though it is going to be feeling cold. Plenty of showers feeding into northern and northwestern parts, these falling as snow, not just over hills but to lower levels too, particularly across Wales and at times central parts of England too. A chance this could lead to some disruption also. Away from these showers though, there'll be plenty of dry weather, plenty of sunshine, though it is going to be feeling cold. Highs only reaching around 6 to 7 Celsius across the south, but not really pushing much past 2 to 3 Celsius in northern areas. And with that added wind chill, that is going to make things feel even colder. Then to end the day across Scotland, we're still going to see plenty of these snow showers feeding in, likely adding to accumulations that we've already seen across northern parts of Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still seeing a good influx of these showers moving through, likely drier in the far east of northern parts of England. And similar across Wales, still seeing plenty of these snow showers, the driest and brightest of the weather likely across the very far southeast. But into the evening, we are still likely to see plenty of clear spells. So once again, another sharp frost and likely seeing further icy stretches by the time we reach the morning. And it's not going to be completely dry. We're still going to see a continuation of these showers, particularly moving into northwestern parts, still falling as snow. But many towns and cities widely dropping below zero, particularly in rural spots where it's likely to be especially cold. Then to start on Wednesday, we see more of the same. Once again, plenty of sunshine to start, though still seeing a feed of those snow showers into the northwest. And then a chance we could see some outbreaks of snow falling into southern counties too, though there is slightly lower confidence as to exactly whereabouts the snow will be, though there is a snow warning issued across the far south. And for many of us, once again, it is going to be a cold end to the day. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, how about starting your new year with an incredible £50,000 in cash from us?
Why not? Excellent.
It could all be yours. Well, not yours, because you're not allowed to apply. But you can.
Okay.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway so far. Here are all of the details that you need.
Imagine how
I'm joined with Ryan-Mark Parsons, who's a TV personality, a columnist, and he was on The Apprentice a few years back, weren't you? That's where most people would recognise your face from. one of the youngest contenders ever on The Apprentice. How did that work out?
Well, you know what? I never in a million years thought I'd get on the show. I was 18 when I applied. There were about 6 months of auditions. It was intense. You met Lord Sugar's advisors, his lawyers, his business advisors. It was the most intense thing I've ever done. And I just thought, never in a million years am I going to get on the show as a teenager. And I got the call from the exec. And he was like, you're one of the 16 candidates. And it was just like, really? So I took a gap year. I've just finished my A-levels. I was working in Harrods before. And I just came up with this business idea, took it onto the show, and I got fired in the end. I lasted 8 weeks, which wasn't too bad. But
what was the business idea? Educate me.
A concierge, similar to companies like Velocity Black, quintessentially, that work with some of the private banks. It was similar to that. I was inspired by my time in Harrods, working with some of these ultra-high net worth clients. So I just wrote a 40-page business plan like we all have to do. But I didn't make it to the interview, so I didn't get to talk about it. But no, it was a great experience, a very tough experience, but unforgettable.
So at a young age, how did that change your life at that age? Because you must have got recognised, starting to be recognised when you're going out and about town.
Yeah, I mean, it happened quite quickly because the adverts start rolling out on BBC One and then the shows go on air. It's once a week on a Wednesday. You're getting about 7 million people tuning in every week.
Yep.
And yeah, it was surreal. It was surreal. And then suddenly you get invitations to things. You're going to premieres, and it was a lot. It was a lot at a young age, and I obviously had no training for any of that, but I just embraced it, and I've had fun with it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
10 years ago, and it's amazing to think this was 10 years ago, you may remember this, there was a satire magazine published from Paris. It was called Charlie Hebdo, and they are marking the anniversary of the awful tragedy that took place since a terrorist attack in their offices. 12 staff murdered.
Yeah, today we're remembering those who lost their life in an attack that shocked Europe and led to the Je suis Charlie campaign, if you remember that, from 10 years ago.
Well, with us now to discuss this, the Daily Mail parliamentary sketch writer, Quentin Letts. Quentin, very good to see you.
Good morning.
Can you believe 10 years have passed?
Flown past, haven't they? Yeah. But this was a dreadful thing. This was... Charlie Hebdo is like Private Eye magazine. Private Eye comes out fortnightly, occasionally do stuff for it, and it takes the mickey out of the political establishment. Charlie Hebdo does the same thing in France, and it was being very outspoken at the time about Islam, which it considered that some of the... Not about the Islam itself, but about some of the people who followed the sort of more extreme interpretations of Islam. And it represented the Prophet Muhammad, and this is forbidden in some Islamic practices. And the two gunmen went in and sprayed bullets and murdered people at an editorial meeting of Charlie Hebdo. Completely outrageous murder. And this was held to be an assault on free speech, which it was. And
what about free speech just involved imagery? Imagery of the Prophet Muhammad, for instance. Which
but should religions be above constraints? Should religion be above criticism? I don't think it should, and I say this as a churchgoer. The religion that I follow, Christianity, is often peppered by satire, and I think it's stronger as a result. I think religions are tremendous arguments, and they should be able to withstand, in fact, draw strength from criticism. And the problem with the stance taken by the gunmen, quite apart from the fact that what they did was illegal murder, was the fact that they are trying to prevent any sort of analysis of their religion, and I think that is totally wrong.
Yeah.
What's changed since then? Has anything changed?
I'm afraid things have got worse. I've got a feeling that people are less prepared to be outspoken in analysing religion and criticising religion and in other aspects of our society. And I've also got a feeling that the intolerance is growing. And I think it just shows the importance of satire.
We saw so much support, didn't we? An outpouring of support for Charlie Hebdo and their journalists 10 years ago. Do you think we would still see that same support had it happened today?
I rather doubt it. I hope I'm wrong. But, we've got to remember that rudeness is a right. And we do not gain any strength by putting ourselves above criticism. And the popes of medieval times found this. They tried to prevent any sort of criticism of Christian teaching. As a result, Christianity became slightly shriveled. And a religion grows when it is open to all sorts of mockery, I'm afraid. That is an unfortunate part of it. I would not set out personally to offend any religious belief, but you must allow that sort of view to be taken. Otherwise, you're saying we're never going to develop. And if a religion prevents itself from developing, I think it becomes shriveled.
And it's all about laughter, isn't it? Laughter, humour, and finding irony in situations. I mean, that is something that we should be privileged to experience.
Well, laughter helps, and unfortunately there was little laughter after that terrible murder. But there used to be a saying, didn't there? Sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words can never hurt me. And that's a pretty good motto for life, I think. In that you can rise above words, but you can't rise above being killed by a bullet in an office, in an editorial conference, when you're trying to prove the freedom of the West. The freedom of the West, I think, is feeling rather smaller these days.
But just trying to get inside someone's brain who actually is offended at that level, and you think, what is it? What has been said? What is it that would motivate you to take a machine gun and kill 12 people?
Well, I think a form of madness. Religion is very seldom helped by its zealots. And, OK, in Christianity we have the third commandment against the graven image, but that was to do, and as in the case of this Islamic prohibition, is to do with stopping bits of wood, say, being represented as God, so therefore that bit of wood becomes worshipped. I don't think that that applies in this case. This was really to do with, I think, sort of ethnic, cultural bullying going on by the government, trying to say, look, we're bigger, we're above you lot, we are the boss class now.
One of the cartoonists who was shot 10 years ago, bullet in the shoulder, I believe it's still there, said the desire to laugh will never disappear. And that's very much the theme, isn't it, of this special issue that Charlie Hebdo have put out this week, to show that they're still kicking, the cause is still there.
Yeah, mockery is the great disinfectant. And if you can just pull people's leg, you make them less proud and mighty, and you make them less arrogant. And I think a little bit of pulling of legs is very important, be it for archbishops or rabbis or indeed for mullahs.
Yeah. So films like The Life of Brian or, productions like Jesus Christ Superstar or whatever it is, personally for you, as a Christian, as a churchgoer, that wouldn't affect you?
I loved The Life of Brian, but it's very hard to imagine The Life of Brian equivalent happening with Islam.
Yeah, OK. Quentin, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your reflections this morning. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do stay with us. Coming up next, sports with Paul Coit.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There's widespread problems because of snow across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England. On the M62 in Greater Manchester, there's a lane closed westbound at junction 20 at Rochdale after an accident causing queues. There's flooding across parts of mostly the Midlands this morning, with parts of the A1 closed each way through Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire because of flooding. Now, in the West Midlands, the A41 is closed each way along Bilston Road in Wolverhampton for an investigation, with West Midlands Metro services suspended between Wolverhampton, St George's and Priestfield. On the M4 in London, the inside lanes closed eastbound after an accident between the Heston services and junction 2 at Brentford, causing roughly 2 miles of queues. Flights at Bristol Airport are suspended because of the weather, and trains in Cornwall aren't running between Liscard and Loo because of flooding. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News. Britain's news channel.
And the latest series of Big Brother has just wrapped up. And as always, the housemates managed to cause a stir.
Yeah, that's an understatement. After 5 weeks of drama and twists and turns, 6 housemates were left to battle it out for a £90,000 prize.
Well, our next guest was there to the bitter end, coming third in this year's competition.
6 weeks you were in there.
Oh, I tell you what, it was a long time.
What goes through your mind? Is it, do you start to go a bit sort of, what do they call it, cabin fever?
Yeah.
Do you go a bit nutty?
Literally, like at times, not that I've ever been in prison, but I kind of likened it to being in jail, particularly when we were having to eat the porridge with water, no sugar, or, you know, that was difficult. And the feeling that you just can't leave. I mean, you can, but... You know, it was,
You can,
tough.
but you won't get your hands on that prize money.
No, exactly.
You made it to the end.
Yeah.
And it's quite a big house, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you feel as though you can get away from housemates if they're annoying you a bit, or does it feel like your hot house with
no,
people you don't like very much?
If you're sort of, you know, if you're not comfortable with a certain conversation or something like that, you can always take yourself and move away. But can you have time to yourself? No. Not really. I mean, even you might think, do you know what, I'll just go and lock myself in the toilet for a few minutes. There's a camera and there's a mic in there, so you can't escape that. And then you're obviously wearing a mic, so there is that little feeling of, you know, I could just do with having 5 minutes to myself, but you can't really get it.
You've met up with one side of the house, but not the other side yet. But is that still on the cards, do you think?
I hope so, yeah, because I liked every single person in that house, despite a few whispers on the internet, you know, like, do you not like this? I liked everybody in the house, never had a bad word with anybody, so...
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nice to see you again, and nice to have Paul Coit here to reflect on what went on last night and what's going to go on tonight, Paul.
Nottingham Forest are on fire, aren't they?
Yeah.
50 years almost to the day.
Forest fire.
Very good. Brian Clough joined Nottingham Forest 1975, and we all know what happened with him. It was all a success, and this is what's happening with Nuno Espirito Santo, Nuno Holy Ghost. It's very successful. It's working really well. So they're now on the same points as Arsenal, although Arsenal are above them on goal difference in second place. 6 points behind Liverpool. This is like the league from 1979.
Incredible.
It's looking great. They beat Wolves 3-0 last night, 6 successive win, very good, and it just continues. So good luck to them. And I think it's now everybody's favourite second team at the moment.
I listened to a lot of stories told on Instagram about Brian Clough.
Young man.
Huh?
Young man. Everybody was young man, yeah.
They were worse than that.
Oh, were they? There are some great stories. I think every ex-player that played for him has got a story. I don't know. It's like this crazed genius, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he would turn up at training and he'd have a badminton racket in his hand in a sweatshirt and shorts, get on with it, young man, and then he'd be walking. Honestly, there's so many stories. We could get some great
many.
Right, Arsenal-Newcastle then is tonight in the Carabao Cup semi-final.
Really interesting, this.
Really is, because referees will be able to announce what's going on to the crowd when it comes to VAR decisions. Because often when you sit there and you're in the crowd, and even when it comes to TV, you think, well, what's gone on? Why is this happening? The referee, when they go to the screen and have a look at something again, will then announce to the crowd, this is the reason.
And the TV audience. So
exactly.
We'll hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
So it's Craig Pawson tonight. I don't know whether he feels nervous, because he's got lots of people he's going to have to speak to. So he's going to have to announce that. But anyway, if there's any contentious decisions, we will hear him announce that, and that's tonight, Arsenal versus Newcastle in the Carabao Cup first semi-final.
Now, there's some nicknames that are being banned in darts. Why? What's that about?
Well, no, it's just only all it is. It's just the nicknames of players. Because I mentioned Bully Boy, which is Michael Smith, and you've got Peter Snakebite Wright, and both of them.
Snakebite.
Peter Snake. Yeah, he's the one with the Mohican.
Yeah.
And they are not going to be playing in the new Premier League, because the way they work it's done on rankings and then it's done on wild cards. And the way they've decided it's not necessarily the best players, but it's those players that people talk about that have personalities. So there are players that are out and players that are in. Stephen Bunting, who did very well, got to the semi-final, who was beaten by Luke Littler just the other night and got thrashed by Luke Littler, but then again, everybody was. He's in. Luke Humphries is in. Van Gerwen's in. and also Chris Dobie has also made it. It starts on the 6th of February in Belfast and ends in May. 16 venues around Europe.
But the contestants or the competitors are decided by the body, just...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's the first lot qualify, and then there are wild cards, and then they will play different venues, and then they win points. And what do points make, Eamonn?
Points make prizes.
Of course they do.
Happy birthday to you, or not to you, but to whose birthday is it?
It's my mum's birthday today.
It's whose?
My mum's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday! That's the mum. That's good.
Oh,
that's good.
Happy birthday. So, well. Should we guess how old she is? No, we won't. Let's. Who's the first one? We've got sporting birthdays. Who are they? How old are... Oh, look, there we are. It's
Lewis
actually
Hamilton.
the one. It's the one on the right-hand side there. It's Lewis Hamilton. So how old do you think Lewis Hamilton is? 7-time
He's 39.
world champion. 39 for Lewis?
Oh, he's been around a long time.
Ellie, you won yesterday, by the way.
I did win yesterday.
35.
40 today. Lewis Hamilton's 40 today.
Well done, well done.
I was close. I was close. 39.
Yeah, but no, close to a cigar.
That was good. That was
Looks
good.
good for his age. Next one. OK, who are we going to go with? Oh, that's Eden Hazard. Where is he? There he is. He's the great Chelsea player, retired now, Belgian. How old do you reckon Eden Hazard is? Or Eden Hazard? Eden Hazard.
45.
45.
42.
He's only 35.
Really?
Only 35.
But he's been retired for ages.
Oh, yeah, he's been retired
He
for a while.
retired young?
Yeah.
Gosh.
One more for you. Now, it's perfect because Newcastle play Arsenal tonight in the Carabao. Ellie's thinking, who is that man? The bowest legs in football he had, Supermac.
He's played for both of them, as we
Played for
see
both
there.
of them, and
but
he's
he had, Ellie, he had these bowed legs.
Yeah.
His legs sort of bent outwards, you know.
Did that help or hinder his football?
It certainly helped him. He was amazing.
As my wife would say, couldn't, because I have those bow legs, couldn't stop a pig in an alley. I think is the phrase. So, but the ball would go... If he put his knees together, the ball would still go straight through his legs.
So how old is he?
Supermac Malcolm McDonald.
Well, he's older than me. I would say 75.
75 for Supermac? Ellie?
Can I have a clue?
Have a clue? Well, you couldn't go far wrong with what Eamonn.
Oh, 75. He's 75.
No, he's 78. But no, 75 is the right answer.
75.
And do you know who else is 75 today? Someone who I know is absolutely your favourite. I hope we've got a picture of her. I hope something's appeared. But Erin... Who was... Erin Gray?
Yes, from
Buck Rogers.
From Buck Rogers in the 21st century.
Yeah.
She's 75.
She's 75 today.
Gosh.
She was born on the same day as Malcolm McDonald and legs pins as straight as a die. So no bow legs going on there.
It's
but
like when I see pictures of Wonder Woman today, she just looks as young as she ever did.
Yeah, but you were looking at pictures of her from 1978, weren't you?
Yeah.
In a Wonder Woman. That was when she was. Yeah.
That's a whole other story. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Paul.
Pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Now, still to come, Jonathan Ashworth and Lauren McKevitt are going through the papers with us. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're on the hunt for some winter sun, I'm afraid it's often going to be cloudy, also with some rain. Largely dry across central areas, but it is going to be windy at times. Some cloud and rain moving into parts of Madeira and Lisbon, though largely dry across Tenerife and largely dry across central areas of the Mediterranean too. But as we move further east, more cloud for parts of Italy and also Greece, and this could be thick enough to produce some rain at times. More in the way of sunshine towards the end of the week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nana Are Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Today I am joined by documentary maker Daniel Wing, who is still trying to find out who murdered his mother 30 years on. He's also created a documentary called Who Murdered You, Mum? Daniel, can you just tell us the story of what happened to your mother, what you know?
So when I was 1 year old in 1992, my mum Tina was murdered. My dad went on trial for it and was acquitted, and the case went unsolved and has been unsolved for 32 years. My nan, who raised me, amazing woman, passed away sadly 2 years ago, and that kind of sent me on a quest for answers.
So your documentary then, what are you hoping to achieve with it?
I am fighting for justice for my mum. I have had a meeting with the police and they are looking to see what they have and are looking to reopen investigation if they can find new and compelling evidence. What's interesting now is speaking to other families who are actually going through the trauma and experience of murder.
Yeah.
My mum didn't get the opportunity to be a mum. What would my life have been? I'm now 33 years old with no parents. And it's that kind of thing. It's a very, I guess, lonely journey in what I'm experiencing. That's why I wanted to make this film, because I hadn't had the opportunity to be able to grieve my mother and know who she was. And that was really what this journey was about. It was about finding out who she was and being able to grieve. Everyone had the opportunity, although terrible circumstances, to be able to go to the funeral and have that moment, and I never had that opportunity.
The People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
They were so good, we're having them back again. Jonathan Ashworth and Lauren McKevitt here to review the papers this morning and what's in it. Lauren, you wanted us to talk about waiting lists in the NHS.
Yeah, so the Prime Minister made a big announcement yesterday about using the private sector to try and ameliorate some of those NHS waiting lists, specifically in relation to gynaecologist appointments, some of the so the bone appointments. And alongside this announcement, a couple of other announcements came along. They are proposing something that my party in government the last time around balked at, which is increasing the age at which free prescriptions kick in. This is in the second page of the Telegraph this morning, that they are looking at standardising the free prescription age with the pension age, which would obviously see about, sort of 6 or 7 years worth of people over the age of 60 now paying for prescriptions for the first time. So, alongside this announcement, a triple header is this, on the front page of this Telegraph, smokers and obese sent to the back of the NHS queue. So patients who are obese or who are smoking, it looks like there's a proposal which will see them be mandated to lose weight and quit smoking in advance of being able to receive surgery, which I think is an interesting approach for the government to take and the NHS to take when you consider that they also don't currently prescribe Ozempic or any kind of weight loss drug only for weight loss without the presence of diabetes. So they appear to be tying people's hands behind their backs while attempting to get them to be treated by the NHS. So a package of announcements from Keir Starmer yesterday, of which waiting lists were really only one factor.
So how old would you have to be to get a free prescription now at the moment?
It's 60. Now, there was a proposal under the last government that the last government rejected, which was to standardise it with the pension age. And within the Telegraph today, I think it's on page I can't find it, but it's in the Telegraph today, a proposal that they're looking at as part of the health reforms that they're looking at to improve NHS outcomes is a proposal that would standardise free prescriptions with the pension age.
Well, they were asked about it and they didn't rule it out, but I'd be amazed if it actually happened in reality, because there would be an outcry. But more broadly, the think tank that I now work for does a lot of polling, and still one of the biggest issues out there is the state of the NHS. People struggling to see a GP. Everyone's got an experience of trying to ring up on 8 o'clock on a Monday morning trying to get a GP's appointment. You can't. If you go to A&E with your poorly kids, you know what a crisis the hospitals are in.
Well, last year I had to wait 6 months for my GP to write a letter to a consultant.
Exactly. I mean,
that's unbelievable.
6 months.
And it's happening to so many people, and the waiting lists are now so huge, but a big chunk of the people on the waiting list are actually just waiting for routine tests, routine scans.
But that's the good thing about what was announced yesterday. You could have a scan in the morning and you could have the consultation by the afternoon.
Yeah, we've got to get... The government wants to get these things turned around for people in a much more timely fashion. So there's going to be 7-day-a-week diagnostic centres in communities. It's going to be easier to get an X-ray. If you can do all that, and you can get your test results back sooner, and then if you need further treatment, you're in the system. So this is the government's big priority. And when it comes to the next general election, it's a long time away, actually, 4 or 5 years away, but this, I think, will be the issue on which they are really tested.
And, as with so many things with the NHS, we do have a Labour roadmap to look at here. This was a policy that was introduced by the Welsh Government about 2 years ago, and absolutely none of those targets have been hit by the Welsh Government having introduced this. So this can go well, but it can also fail. I think it's also important to note that they aren't addressing mental health waiting lists within this, and that has a direct impact on huge chunks of the worklessness issue within the United Kingdom, and the number of people who are on out-of-work benefits because they are awaiting mental health care is vast. So if that isn't ameliorated in some way, then there's a double-header issue between the Health Department and DWP. Well, that list is not going to go down.
This is the thing, isn't it? Because Labour Party is saying that they need 10 years to fix the NHS, but the devil is in the detail. And as you say, nothing on mental health, nothing so far on social care, nothing on emergency departments. I mean, what they were saying yesterday was, well, yes, this is great for people who might have a pre-existing condition, but for someone who's just had a heart attack and is stuck in an ambulance outside an A&E department, I mean, what can be done to help them?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was just one announcement, and this is about the waiting list and the people who are on the waiting list. As I say, often you're on a waiting list for a test or an appointment, a daycare appointment. But you're right, there's going to be more proposals coming down the line in the next few weeks from the government on how to fix the NHS more broadly, and they've got to sort out emergency care. We're in winter now. There's always pressure on the NHS at winter because it's cold and people are falling on the ice, or elderly people at home are often...
and this year they're cold because they don't have the winter fuel allowance anymore.
Well, they've still got a very generous increase in the pension because of the earnings-linked triple lock, of course. But we know that every winter ambulances are backed up outside hospitals, so you've got to fix emergency care, and that's often about the flow through the hospital.
But if you park social care reform to 2028, you don't actually fix the flow problem.
Yeah, because
you can't have people being discharged from emergency care when they've had a slip and fall at home and need emergency care, and then they need to be discharged into a social care environment of some description to monitor them. If that system is still broken, a fundamental chunk of how emergency care works, in England at least, because of course we've got 4 NHSs in the United Kingdom, will never be fixed. And Labour have parked social care reform until 2028, and I bet that's a year out from an election. They're going to say, no, what we need now is a citizens' jury or something, a citizens' assembly to look at this. Because every single party, my party included, the last person who tried to really grapple with the issue of social care was Theresa May, and she was absolutely pilloried for it. This is a really thorny issue. The concept of your home being leverage for paying for social care is so anathema to so many parts of the United Kingdom. It's really hard to see how Labour can deal with that in 2028, a year out from an election, and actually deal with it well.
Quick word, we've got a minute and a half left, about trains, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah.
And trains being cancelled. Give us this particular excuse.
I mean, this is a story about some trains being cancelled because the snow and the ice, and the way it's presented in the newspapers is that the unions told their The members didn't want to walk on the snow. Look, I'm assuming the reality is that the train station, because of the ice and the snow, was dangerous and slippy, and it's a health and safety issue. And the train drivers, understandably, didn't want to walk on slippy ice and fall over and end up in one of these overcrowded hospitals. I'm assuming that's what the story is all about, although the presentation of it is suggesting that people didn't want to walk on the snow, which I suspect that's a bit of the spin in the presentation of it.
Yeah, so ASLEF has said that the walkways were covered in snow, they hadn't been gritted, and so the drivers couldn't access their trains. This is basic safety stuff.
And whose job is it to grit the stations? This is what I never understand, is how many bits of the state aren't working together well enough to make sure that the station is gritted to begin with, so that train drivers can actually get there?
We've got to leave it there. Jonathan, thank you very much indeed. See you guys again in 45 minutes.
Talking about the weather, let's get the details with Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cold start with frost and ice in places, also some snow showers which may lead to some disruption. Plenty of sunshine around, though it is going to be feeling cold. Plenty of showers feeding into northern and northwestern parts, these falling as snow, not just over hills but to lower levels too, particularly across Wales and at times central parts of England too. A chance this could lead to some disruption also. Away from these showers though, there'll be plenty of dry weather, plenty of sunshine, though it is going to be feeling cold. Highs only reaching around 6 to 7 Celsius across the south, but not really pushing much past 2 to 3 Celsius in northern areas. And with that added wind chill, that is going to make things feel even colder. Then to end the day across Scotland, we're still going to see plenty of these snow showers feeding in, likely adding to accumulations that we've already seen across northern parts of Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still seeing a good influx of these showers moving through, likely drier in the far east of northern parts of England. And similar across Wales, still seeing plenty of these snow showers, the driest and brightest of the weather likely across the very far southeast. But into the evening, we are still likely to see plenty of clear spells. So once again, another sharp frost and likely seeing further icy stretches by the time we reach the morning. And it's not going to be completely dry. We're still going to see a continuation of these showers, particularly moving into northwestern parts, still falling as snow. But many towns and cities widely dropping below zero, particularly in rural spots where it's likely to be especially cold. Then to start on Wednesday, we see more of the same. Once again, plenty of sunshine to start, though still seeing a feed of those snow showers into the northwest. And then a chance we could see some outbreaks of snow falling into southern counties too, though there is slightly lower confidence as to exactly whereabouts the snow will be, though there is a snow warning issued across the far south. And for many of us, once again, it is going to be a cold end to the day. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There's disruption to a number of roads this morning across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England because of snow. Flooding also affecting a number of routes, particularly across the Midlands, with the A1 in Nottinghamshire closed southbound from the Claypole turn-off to the Marston turn-off, and through Lincolnshire closed northbound from the Melton Mowbray turn-off to Long Bennington. In the West Midlands, the A41 is closed each way along Bilston Road in Wolverhampton for an investigation, with West Midlands Metro services suspended between Wolverhampton, St George's and Priestfield. On the M25 in Surrey, the outside lanes closed clockwise just before junction 12 for the M3 after an accident, with queues almost back to junction 10 for the A3. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks, and flights at Bristol Airport are suspended because of poor weather. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
£50,000 in tax-free cash is like having over £4,000 each month to play with for a whole year. And it could be yours in the biggest Great British giveaway so far. That could be a holiday each month, your mortgage covered, or just the ability to send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge.
News to be straight talking. This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. The grooming gang fallout rumbles on.
The Prime Minister is accused of dismissing calls for a national inquiry as far-right.
Politicians who sat in government for many years, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Before the Home Secretary tries to calm the storm by announcing tougher sentences for groomers. We're asking this morning, is it too little, too late? Earlier we spoke to Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick.
People like Keir Starmer have said you should turn a blind eye for fear of political correctness, that we have seen this happen time and again, decade after decade. It has to end.
Liberal Democrats are calling for a complete overhaul of support for carers as they bring attention to what are called sandwich carers. They're the squeezed middle, responsible for both children and parents.
Is Elon Musk a liability to Donald Trump? We're debating that this morning as European leaders accuse the world's richest man of foreign interference.
Weather-wise, Lincolnshire and Leicestershire declare major incidents as rain and snow batters the areas.
And in the sport, it's like the old Brian Clough days as Nottingham Forest win again. Joint second on points at the moment in the Premier League. The referee will have a voice for the first Carabao Cup semi-final tonight between Arsenal and Newcastle. And will Graham Potter be the next West Ham manager by the end of the week?
Hello there, good morning. It's a cold and icy start, also with some snow showers in the west, and this could lead to some travel disruption. I'll be here later with all the details.
Hello there, very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamon and Ellie.
Much for all your comments this morning. What are folks saying, Ellie?
On grooming gangs, June's been in touch saying, good morning, Ellie and Eamon. Starmer calling people who care about children being raped by vile scumbags as far right should hang his head in shame and he should resign. What a despicable thing to say. This is the man who is supposed to represent and support the British people and their children.
Now, Paul, here's an interesting one from Jill on the weather. And she says, I was born in the northeast. My school never closed, not once, for snow. If there were no buses, I had to walk the 2 miles to school. We just wrapped up and got on with it. Now, that's what I remember.
I remember that. I remember the classrooms being cold. It's like, well, the classroom's cold, you just get on with it. What's the matter? Wear another jumper.
Yeah.
I mean,
They was tough times, weren't they?
Well, I don't ever remember somebody saying, well, it's snowing, you can't go.
I know, well, that's it these days. Oh, the radiator's not going up. You can't be up in there.
Do you know why earlier I was showing pictures of the
hoof?
Yeah, the hoof, the horse's hoof. Who is it that puts the horse's hoof on the horse's foot? What is that person called?
A farrier.
Oh.
She only knows that because she's just reading the page that
So is the blacksmith the one that makes the shoes?
That's
is that
exactly the way it is.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Debbie, for telling us that. Yeah, it's the farrier who does all the cleaning, right?
Right.
So you're saying it's the farrier that does all that picking out stuff there?
Yeah, it's a fun job,
Yeah.
basically. And it's the blacksmith that knocks it on.
Do you know what you were saying to me earlier, that reminded you of your feet? And the state that they're in.
Oh, no.
Now, we did all this, and we're showing, and we're talking about farriers and blacksmiths and things after yesterday. Now, yesterday, we featured star of our show yesterday was Liam Wildish. Liam is better known on Instagram as the sign guy. And if you tune in, this is what you'll see. This is the sort of stuff he does. He cleans signs. And there doesn't seem to be any obligation on councils to keep these signs clean or to do this job themselves. So Liam takes his gear, his wet brush there and whatever, and he goes out, and it makes him feel really good by cleaning up those signs.
Yeah, he doesn't get paid to do it either, does he? He just volunteers.
No.
What does he do then? What does he do for... What is he, a window cleaner or something?
Yeah, I think he is a window cleaner.
No, I think he might get arrested for this.
We've probably got him into trouble.
There'll be some rules, some breaking health and safety about doing this sort of thing. But anyway, it's addictive to watch. I mean, there's a good one there.
That's lovely. Look at the lovely straight line he's got there.
Oh, and it's going to just turn out from green to white.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
But he says he does it just because he takes pride in his community and because he wants to give something back.
And it just looks better. It's addictive to watch. It looks better. What have you got that equals that? Do you do something that equals that? I'm not necessarily talking about cleaning things, but something that will feature here on the programme. And if you're doing it for your area, your neighbourhood, we would like to praise you for that. Do you do anything for your neighbourhood?
No, see, the thing is making a big deal about me just cutting down a few branches. See, down the road from me, it just drives me crazy. It's all the bushing, all the growth is all going over onto the pavement. And when I'm walking along with the dog, and sometimes you get, thistles and goodness.
Yeah.
So I always have a few little secateurs in my pocket.
Yeah.
As I walk past, give them a little clip, and I'm getting addicted to it. That's the problem.
It's really addictive.
I was out there with the big choppers the other day, and maybe I should, take the whole thing down.
I think you're a hero. You're doing your bit for the
Ellie,
community.
I was thinking the same thing, Ellie.
Yeah.
I really do.
Caroline's been in touch saying, Eamonn, the obvious answer to your Christmas tree problem, because Eamonn hasn't taken down his Christmas tree yet, is to get Paul to call round each morning, and you can take away one branch at a time.
Bring the choppers round.
Bring your choppers. That's the way to
I'll
do
sort
it.
those out for you.
Okay, good man. Get in touch with us. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk. Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Now we'll get down to the news.
Yes, because the Prime Minister is under fire after a press conference that was meant to focus on NHS reforms got derailed, completely overshadowed by the grooming gang fallout.
Now, responding to criticism from Elon Musk, Sir Keir Starmer defended his time as Director of Public Prosecutions before labelling calls for a national inquiry into grooming far right. So he's saying if you support this, you're on the far right bandwagon. And I have to say, so many of you, don't agree with that.
It is something about the nature of our politics, because once we lose the anchor that truth matters in the robust debate we must have, then we're on a very slippery slope. And when politicians, and I mean politicians, who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth, and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Well, the Home Secretary is hoping to calm the storm with a promise to introduce harsher sentences for groomers, as well as announcing a new victims and survivors panel to advise ministers.
Let's go to our man Charlie Peters, who's been behind all of this, and he's a big driving force involving attention given to this story. And Charlie is our national news reporter. Charlie, tell us more about the reaction.
Well, Eamonn and Ellie, the government last night was desperately attempting to get its narrative back on track, to get control of this story after it threatened to spiral wildly out of control after the Prime Minister's statements yesterday morning, as you've just been detailing, him saying that those calling for a national public inquiry, such as the leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, and all of the Reform UK MPs, were jumping on a bandwagon set by the far right. The government attempts to get back on control of this story last night were about mandatory reporting for child sexual abuse, harsher prison sentences for groomers, and also an introduction of a victims panel chaired by the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips. But it was this channel's story last week that Jess Phillips had blocked an independent inquiry into Oldham that has kicked off so much of this outrage over this national scandal. And it's that so many survivors are demanding, a national public inquiry, independent reports into the some 50 different towns and cities where this channel has identified credible reports, investigations or some prosecutions of these on-street grooming gangs, a very particular form of group child sexual exploitation. Now, the government is continuing to say that the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse from 2022 is sufficient. But so many survivors and campaigners and experts in this field have said that that report took a very broad assessment of child abuse across the country. It had some specialist subsections, for example, into the Jimmy Savile tragedies and also into the Catholic Church. But there was never, in its 7-year inquiry, never a specialist section on-street grooming gangs, potentially the worst tragedy of modern British history. Last night, the Blue Labour group called on the Labour government to launch a national public inquiry. It broke with the Prime Minister's stance against that, and Blue Labour said that the grooming gang scandal was this country's worst travesty since the Second World War. That group headed up by a Labour peer, Maurice Glasman. I understand that further Labour figures, including MPs and peers, are now considering breaking with Keir Starmer's stance on this, especially after the far-right jibe he made yesterday. His government is under significant pressure, not just externally, but also GB News understands internal pressure from several MPs and peers who are considering responses to this. That's according to political sources speaking to GB News overnight. But let's bring this back to who really matters in this conversation. Less about the politics, more about the survivors, because they have been speaking to GB News constantly over the last week since Elon Musk shared our reporting and brought this conversation back into not just a national spotlight, but an international conversation. Now, they are extremely distressed by Sir Keir Starmer's comments. The anger I've heard on this shocks so many of those survivors. When I heard it, I was actually standing next to a councillor from Tameside, Councillor Liam Billington. He's been campaigning for independent inquiry into that area for many years. There's still reports of on-street grooming in that area of Greater Manchester. Still no independent investigation. Now, Liam's a very chatty and pretty aggressive guy when it comes to this. He wants action. But he was absolutely stunned into silence by that comment by Sir Keir Starmer. Now, there are other survivors who aren't certain about a national public inquiry. Some survivors have said that they want Telford-style or Rotherham-style investigations. But still, there is overwhelming pressure on the government now to clarify why it thinks that the independent inquiry from 2022, which looked at just 6 towns, is enough when there are over 50 towns that have reported this scandal.
Charlie, thank you very much indeed. We go to our political correspondent, Catherine Foster, on this one. Catherine, what about the pressure on Keir Starmer now, and how has he played this? Because we do have to tell you that reaction we're getting from our viewers and listeners is this has not been popular.
Yes, this is an absolute nightmare start for the government to the new year. Of course, nothing can compare with the horrific things that have been done to these girls over decades, and the state has failed to protect them and failed to get justice. But the government, of course, it's 6 months in, has had a pretty dreadful start. They tried yesterday to get back on the front foot with this big announcement about the NHS, the PM standing in hospital, but it was pretty much entirely derailed. All you have to do is look at today's front pages. with all the huge row that has erupted over grooming gangs and the government's refusal now for a national public inquiry. Now, the PM was exceedingly punchy, wasn't he? And it's worth saying exactly what he said with that far-right bandwagon comment. He'd actually said that politicians he was talking about, calling for a statutory inquiry, were jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. I think the politician bit has been entirely missed, and people have heard, understandably, him conflating support for a national inquiry with support of the far right, which obviously is going to anger and upset a whole lot of people. Now, the government has tried to diffuse this by the announcements yesterday by the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, late in the afternoon, taking up on some of the recommendations of the J report published a couple of years ago, which the Conservatives had not done much about. They will hope that that will go some way to diffusing this. They're also trying to talk today about making it a new offence to take intimate images of somebody without their knowledge, also of making deep fake sort of explicit images of somebody too. They have said that they're going to halve violence against women and girls, but given that aim, I think the refusal to order this inquiry is becoming exceedingly difficult for them.
Kemi Badenoch's role in this is really interesting, isn't it? Because as you say, it's Keir Starmer accusing her of jumping on the right-wing bandwagon, calling for a national inquiry. But it does seem as though this is the first big dividing line that she is confident to draw with Labour and also go toe-to-toe with Reform on.
Yes, it does. And of course, for all that the Conservatives are very, very critical now of the government, they didn't order this inquiry either in those 14 years. They pretty much sat on their hands too. But Elon Musk, of course, still tweeting. He has been quite supportive of her in these calls. And yes, it is a dividing line. And Elon Musk, for his part, his pinned tweet has changed. Yesterday, it was a poll on whether the UK people should be relieved of what he called their tyrannical government. Today, it's a clip of Emmanuel Macron, the French president, accusing Musk of actively interfering in European politics. There's an election in Germany next month. He's come out in support of the AfD. So he's pinned Macron today, but he's still taking a pop at Starmer, saying, oh, well, remember when Starmer spoke against Trump and said that he should be stopped and so on. So Elon Musk still taking lots of pot shots. This is not going away at all. And the government very, very keen to talk about anything else, but no sign of that happening at the moment.
OK, Catherine Forster there for us in Westminster. Thank you very much.
Well, a government spokesperson from the Home Office has said this.
No child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation, and it's paramount that we do more to protect vulnerable children, which is why we're working at pace across government to drive forward real action to implement the recommendations of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. Commenting on the criticism of Ms Phillips from Elon Musk, the Home Secretary has given us this statement, saying the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls has dedicated her career to tackling sexual violence and abuse and to being a voice for victims and survivors of the most terrible crimes, including child sexual abuse.
Let's have a look at some of the other stories making it in the newsroom this morning. Canada's Prime Minister, our former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has announced his resignation after nearly a decade at the helm. In his farewell speech, he spoke of internal battles his party was facing. Canada's opposition parties plan to force a confidence vote when Parliament resumes in March. That would pave the way for a spring election.
Today marks 10 years since the massacre of 2 gunmen at Paris offices of the satirical paper Charlie Hebdo. The publication has released a special edition marking 10 years since the Islamist terror attack, which killed 12 of its staff.
At least 50 people have been killed and dozens injured following an earthquake in China's Tibet region. Experts are estimating 7.1 on the Richter scale.
A state of emergency has been declared in numerous US states as Storm Blair wreaks havoc. More than 60 million people have been impacted, with thousands of flights cancelled. Experts say it's the coldest temperatures recorded in many states for over a decade.
And with that, I think we'll get an update with our own weather. Honor Criswick with this one.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cold start with frost and ice in places, also some snow showers which may lead to some disruption. Plenty of sunshine around, though it is going to be feeling cold. Plenty of showers feeding into northern and northwestern parts, these falling as snow, not just over hills but to lower levels too, particularly across Wales and at times central parts of England too. A chance this could lead to some disruption also. Away from these showers though, there'll be plenty of dry weather, plenty of sunshine, though it is going to be feeling cold. Highs only reaching around 6 to 7 Celsius across the south, but not really pushing much past 2 to 3 Celsius in northern areas. And with that added wind chill, that is going to make things feel even colder. Then to end the day across Scotland, we're still going to see plenty of these snow showers feeding in, likely adding to accumulations that we've already seen across northern parts of Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still seeing a good influx of these showers moving through, likely drier in the far east of northern parts of England. And similar across Wales, still seeing plenty of these snow showers, the driest and brightest of the weather likely across the very far southeast. But into the evening, we are still likely to see plenty of clear spells. So once again, another sharp frost and likely seeing further icy stretches by the time we reach the morning. And it's not going to be completely dry. We're still going to see a continuation of these showers, particularly moving into northwestern parts, still falling as snow. But many towns and cities widely dropping below zero, particularly in rural spots where it's likely to be especially cold. Then to start on Wednesday, we see more of the same. Once again, plenty of sunshine to start, though still seeing a feed of those snow showers into the northwest. And then a chance we could see some outbreaks of snow falling into southern counties too, though there is slightly lower confidence as to exactly whereabouts the snow will be, though there is a snow warning issued across the far south. And for many of us, once again, it is going to be a cold end to the day. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, how about starting your new year with an incredible £50,000 in cash from us? Well, it could all be yours in our biggest Great British giveaway so far. Here are all the details that you need.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang. From treats to holidays to fun times with the family, a totally tax-free £50,000 in cash could make you feel alive in 2025. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start
curators have delved into its riches to produce an exhibition of Italian drawings between 1450 and 1600. There are household names here: Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. Some of the drawings are complete works in themselves. Some are studies for images that would appear in much larger pieces, and some are anatomical studies which enabled these artists to draw the human form in all its perfection.
This is the earliest drawing in the exhibition of around 1450, and it's made by Fra Angelico, the great Florentine painter. It may seem an obvious thing to say, but we only have drawings like this if they have survived. And these drawings were not seen at the time as works of art. They were workshop studies. They were as functional as a hammer or a paintbrush, if you like, in the workshop. But the fact that a drawing would survive from 1450 to the present day shows that first it was useful, and it was a work that would have been referred to constantly in the artist's studio, and only later was it valued by collectors as an exemplar of the artist's genius, if you like, the way in which we might think of it today. So a drawing like this, which is in almost perfect condition, has got a history of being valued for different reasons from when it was produced to the present.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Elon Musk, he's the man of the moment. He's in Donald Trump's good books, but with the billionaire making headlines everywhere for his posts on X, could the incoming president soon tire of him?
Well, Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron have both made their feelings clear towards Musk. So today we're asking, is Musk going to be a liability to Donald Trump? Well, joining us to debate this is former candidate for Reform UK, Mark Hoth, and chairman for Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Very good morning to you both. Greg, is Elon Musk a liability to Donald Trump?
No, I don't think so, and at least so far, I think his candor and his honesty has been refreshing. And look, I think the world got used to Donald Trump's late night tweets back in his first term, or even when he was campaigning. So I think it's not terribly new. This is not like someone coming out of nowhere and making these wild assertions on Twitter. So far, so good. He was also really critical. One of the really critical components of President Trump's election. When he endorsed Trump in July, I thought that was a really positive moment for the campaign. So I think so far, so good with Elon.
And Mark, that's the key to all of this that Greg's just mentioned. When he endorsed the campaign, because he's got this amazing reach, because he's got all this money, but the man is seriously weird, is he not?
Well, I think what you find is, I think even people that don't like him would agree that he's a genius in terms of the things that he's done. And with geniuses, you tend to get people that can be quite erratic, is probably fair to say. When you look back in history with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they've had more fallouts and getting back together than Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, or indeed maybe the Gallagher brothers. But they always come back together. Going back right in history, in 2016, Musk said that Trump wasn't fit to be president. Then he served in his government in 2017. Then he left the government because he was upset that Donald Trump left the Paris Accord on climate change. In 2021, Trump called him a load of BS. You know, but then they always come back together, and that tends to be what you find with this type of relationship.
It's a deal that suits both of them. I mean, already we hear this morning he's kissed and made up with Nigel Farage again after saying he wasn't capable of leading Reform UK. I mean, how do you deal with all of that, Greg? I mean, just, you know, he's going to change with the wind.
Yeah, look, I don't think the president wants just yes men in his inner circle, and I think that's one of the concerns that someone in the media, especially on the corporate media in the U.S., of suggesting that he's got all these yes men. When you look at what, you know, the disagreements they've had in the past, yes, of course, that happens in politics, but even more recently, you know, where Elon has had some disagreements with RFK Jr. on so-called GLP-1 drugs or the brand names of Ozempic. They've had a disagreement. That's good. That's healthy. He endorsed Howard Lutnick as Secretary of the Treasury rather than Scott Bessent, and yet, you know, President Trump stuck with Scott, which I thought was great. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, some soundboarding in politics, and I think that's what you'll see from Elon and President Trump.
Mark, isn't it inevitable, though, that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to fall out at some stage? Because we're talking here about two alpha males who say exactly what they think with not really much regard for the consequences.
Yeah, I think it probably is inevitable that there'll be a fallout at some stage, but they've got what's called a love-hate relationship. You know, when you go back in history, some of the best love-hate relationships have resulted actually in some of the best things. You know, ironically, you know, back in the late 1800s, Nikola Tesla fell out with Thomas Edison, big style, you know, because they were both trying to achieve the same thing. They had a love-hate relationship, and what that resulted in was something fantastic. And I'm quite sure with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, if they fall out tomorrow and then they're back together the day after, well, that's absolutely fine as long as they get the result that they're looking for. And I'm convinced that actually the two of them working in tandem together will create something fantastic. A bit like I mentioned earlier, the Gallagher brothers. I'm quite sure they're back together.
Greg, what do you think about him sticking his nose into British politics so overtly?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think he's raised, you know, maybe raised a temperature on one hand, but he's definitely raised awareness. And I think he was absolutely right to make those criticisms and bring attention to it. It's something that people in the U.S. had not heard much about, and now it's front page news. And so, and look, this is not new. You know, you had labor staffers coming over during the campaign to support Kamala. You had the Steele dossier, which was not directly, but perhaps indirectly supported by the intelligence agencies here. You know, this is not new. You know, comments by Keir Starmer and David Lammy in the past that could be considered, you know, intruding in U.S. politics. It's really not that big of a deal, and I think it was great that Elon did that.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed for your views. We appreciate that. Thanks for your time as well. Still to come.
Find out what sandwich carers are and why they're fighting for more rights. That's next. This is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M8 in West Lothian is partly blocked eastbound by an accident at Junction 3 at Livingston. In West Yorkshire, the A58M Inner Ring Road in Leeds is partly blocked eastbound by a breakdown at the A58 West Street junction causing queues from the Alney Gyratory. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from the Claypole turnoff to the Marston turnoff. Northbound is closed through Lincolnshire from the Melton Mowbray turnoff near Grantham to Long Bennington. In the West Midlands, the A41 is closed each way along Bilston Road in Wolverhampton for an investigation, with West Midlands Metro services suspended between Wolverhampton, St George's and Priestfield. The M1 from Northamptonshire into Buckinghamshire is blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 15 and 14 from Northampton to Milton Keynes, causing queues, and there's disruption to flights at Bristol Airport after problems with the weather. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Dora Carrington is not known to lots of people, and very few pieces are in public collections. So you have had a great deal of work to do to put this exhibition together.
Absolutely. It's been, next year, it will be 30 years since the last major exhibition of Carrington's work, which happened in 1995 at the Barbican Gallery. And I guess if people know Carrington's work, they might have seen the film that took place that year, that came out that year, starring Emma Thompson as Carrington and Jonathan Pryce as Lytton Strachey, who was her main kind of key relationship in her life. And that, in a way, dramatised a lot of those relationships. And so people will often know her life as much as her art. There's only 16 works in public collections, and so apart from chances such as the big billboard campaign you mentioned 10 years ago, there have been very few chances to actually see her work in the flesh. And so what this exhibition does is bring together around 80 works by Carrington and a few of her key contemporaries, providing a new generation really a chance to see and enjoy her work. She was one of the most remarkable of her generation at the Slade School of Art. She won several prizes for her drawing and her draftsmanship. And in the first room of the exhibition, we have some of the work, for example, a couple of female nudes that she painted when she was at the Slade, and they really are kind of quite outstanding.
One of the things that's been said is that in her landscapes, she's sometimes painting the human body as well as the landscape. Is that something that occurred to you? Can you stand up that?
Yes, I mean, one of her most famous paintings we have of Spain has. It's very much like you could liken it to the female form. You know, the kind of the
delicately put.
Yes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good to see you again. Liberal Democrat MP and carer spokesperson Alison Bennett. We're going to speak to Alison now because this caring situation, Alison, it really is quite delicate, and you feel that carers, and these particular sandwich carers, which look after their children and their parents, are particularly neglected. Tell us more.
Right, Eamonn. So sandwich carers are people who are looking after older members of their family as well as young children. And, you know, those of us who've just been through Christmas and maybe had to deal with a multi-generational Christmas will have some idea of the challenges of different generations. Now, if you imagine what that's like day in, day out, where you've got an elderly relative who's poorly, who needs care, as well as the demands of young children, and maybe work and paying the bills too, that's a huge amount to take on board. And really, the report that's come out from the UCL today showing that carers' mental health is really suffering as a result shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but it's so important that we talk about it.
How do you fix that? What do you want to see being done?
First thing to say is that the previous Conservative government really neglected carers. They chased people receiving the carers allowance for overpayments that those people had received through no fault of their own. We are pleased that the new Labour government has, looked at this and announced a review, and thanked the work of Lib Dem leader Ed Davey in highlighting the role of carers through his own personal experience in the general election. So Labour are making the right noises, but we think they need to go a lot further. It was Lib Dems through a private member's bill that brought in unpaid carers leave in the last Parliament, but we want to see that become paid, because you know that an awful lot of the carers are in part-time work, on low incomes, and actually they can't take advantage of that leave unless it becomes paid.
Can I ask you about the grooming gangs scandal? Obviously, top story at the moment. Do the Lib Dems support a national inquiry?
My opinion, national inquiries, we've had loads of them over the decades, haven't we? Things like Hillsborough, infected blood. They're not necessarily the silver bullet that the people calling for them at the moment want them to be. It can take decades and decades for answers to come through. The thing that urgently needs to happen right now is making sure that the ICSA recommendations are enacted. The Tories had 2 years to do that. They failed to do it. That's a shame on them. It's absolutely high time those initial steps were taken right now.
But the ICSA report, as many people have pointed out, had a really narrow scope, didn't it? It looked at 6 places where grooming gangs weren't necessarily operating. And GB News this week has been highlighting that there are actually 50, potentially even 60 areas, perhaps even more, where this is going on and has been undetected. Do you not want a national inquiry to uncover and expose exactly what's been going on so that this can never, ever happen again to young women and girls?
Absolutely, we need to focus on the victims here and making sure that they get justice. My concern in all of this is that actually those victims are being overlooked. So we need to enact the ICSA recommendations, absolutely, and that needs to be done urgently. We can't wait anymore. And I would just caution that, calling for a national inquiry won't get those people the justice that they rightly deserve.
Alison, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Alison Bennett is a Liberal Democrat MP. She is the spokesperson for the carers situation. If you've got a carer story to tell, let us know, share it with us today, and we'll share it with everyone else.
Going through the papers now with Jonathan Ashworth and the former Conservative Special Advisor, Lauren McEvatt. Really good to see you both. Lauren, let's start with this, shall we? How children's TV may be harming, not helping young minds.
Yeah, so this is an article in the Express today, a big double-page spread as a result of some new research in a new book that's coming out by a child psychologist, saying that children's television, and I think perhaps more importantly, the way that children consume television and video product now is perhaps not as healthy for them as we would hope it would be, and there's quite some distance from children's television of the past, of the sort of the Bagpuss and Clangers and Ivor the Engine era. And I think what's interesting about this is particularly the how children's television is consumed angle, because children are now put in front of screens significantly more often than they were certainly when I think we were growing up, as a mechanism to keep them quiet, as a tool to have children in social circumstances where perhaps otherwise they'd be running around, or they would need to be, perhaps parented differently than just being plonked in front of a screen. And if the content that they are consuming is not great for their brains and their learning and development, which Floella Benjamin of children's television fame is now leading a big crusade to say that some of this is really, really bad for children. If they are, in addition, being plonked in front of this more regularly, then we are looking at, a trend towards children's television harming rather than helping in the development of children.
Jonathan?
I mean, this really strikes a chord with me, this story, because I've got two daughters, a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. Look, kids these days, they're not watching the TV that we all watched when we were growing up. They're not even watching GB News in the morning.
What are they thinking?
Would you believe it? But they are watching this absolute drivel all day long on YouTube, and because obviously all our TVs are now connected to the internet, or they're getting TikTok on their TV. It's not even, so they don't even necessarily have to have smartphones or iPads. They can just watch this stuff on TV, and it is rubbish. They are watching it and they're obsessed with it. These short, weird clips. There's this thing called, Skibbity Toilet or something. Have you heard of this?
No.
No? Well, you'll have viewers who have got, who are parents of sort of 13-year-olds, and this Skibbity Toilet thing is, they're all obsessed with it, and this is a really annoying sort of theme tune or thing that they sing at you. And I just think to myself, like, I used to watch things like Grange Hill, Blue Peter, and Newsround, and
Hollyoaks. Hollyoaks was a big one.
All this sort of stuff when I was growing up. I wasn't watching these weird short clips on the internet. Well, it wasn't really the internet until I was an older teenager. But I mean, is this going to damage them for the long term? I mean, I don't know. This psychologist is one, and it could be, but I certainly know that what they watch is rubbish.
I mean, I've got loads of nieces and nephews, and several of my friends and siblings won't show Cocomelon to their children. And Cocomelon is one of the ones that's referenced in the article quite heavily, because it has sort of this hypnotic quality to it, which is sort of stunning these children into silence as they watch it, which doesn't seem to be great. But on the flip side, we've also got a really proud British tradition of creating great children's television, particularly for export, including the fact that Peppa Pig being so big in the United States is changing children's accents in the United States. There are children with British accents in the US because they're watching so much Peppa Pig. It's one of the big elements of us exporting it to the US. But I do think that some of the stuff that's being put out now is probably, as the psychologist is pointing out, dross of the highest order.
And the children deserve better, don't they? Lauren, Jonathan, do stay with us. We're going to go to a very short break, and then we'll be back going through some more papers. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're on the hunt for some winter sun, I'm afraid it's often going to be cloudy, also with some rain. Largely dry across central areas, but it is going to be windy at times. Some cloud and rain moving into parts of Madeira and Lisbon, though largely dry across Tenerife and largely dry across central areas of the Mediterranean too. But as we move further east, more cloud for parts of Italy and also Greece, and this could be thick enough to produce some rain at times. More in the way of sunshine towards the end of the week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Joining me now is food historian and author of Christmas with Dickens, Pen Vogler. Pen, let's start with Christmas Carol. Did A Christmas Carol change Britain's view of Christmas?
I think it did, enormously. Before then, people were beginning to think, as they do now, that Christmas might be being a little bit commercial. It was too much food and drink, not enough kind of seriousness or not enough kind of love and family. And what Dickens did with A Christmas Carol was show people who were coming to the cities, who were kind of losing their rural history, a new way of celebrating Christmas, that a real, just a family could get together and love and kind of get around the table together. And whereas before, a lot of those kind of Christmas dishes would have been seasonal, lots of people would have eaten them at different times of the year, Dickens does two things. He takes the goose, which is what the Cratchits are going to eat, and he turns it to a turkey, much bigger, meatier, kind of more generous. And then he takes this thing that he never calls Christmas pudding in A Christmas Carol. There's no Christmas pudding. He only calls it plum pudding, and he anchors it to that day. And interestingly, after then, people start publishing recipes for Christmas pudding, and it starts getting its name, Christmas pudding, from plum pudding. And I think all of that really comes from A Christmas Carol.
You say becomes a Christmas pudding almost immediately after A Christmas Carol is published.
Yes, I mean, it's occasionally called Christmas pudding before, but not often. And then a very famous for the time, the kind of Delia Smith of her day, lady called Eliza Acton, publishes a recipe called The Author's Christmas Pudding in 1845. And we know she's a big Dickens fan because she sent a copy of her cookbook to him.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers again with Jonathan Ashworth and Lauren McEvitt. Let's start with this McDonald story, Jonathan, shall we? McDonald's workers making fresh harassment claims.
Yeah, it's a very serious story, and it sounds like from the reading of it that a number of workers feel that that they've put in complaints, they've had to leave working at McDonald's, and it doesn't sound like there's been satisfactory investigation into this. And obviously, nobody should be harassed in the workplace. No one should feel that they certainly should not feel that they are being sexually harassed. And obviously, look, workplaces, doesn't matter whether you're one of the big global brands like McDonald's or not, you have to put in place proper procedures to investigate these matters when they're brought to your attention.
And these allegations are particularly of a sexual nature.
That's what it suggests to be, and it does sound like that. I mean, I think one of the bosses of a McDonald's is going to be before one of the relevant committees in Parliament and is going to have to give evidence. But you know, it doesn't matter whether you're a big global brand or not. A workplace has to have proper procedures in place to protect its workers.
Is McDonald's in the UK franchised the way it is in the United States?
Yeah.
Are we talking about sort of
Yeah.
700 different small businesses effectively operating under one model? Because that's presumably where the sort of the gulf in ability to deal with this lies. Is there's a big parent company with a big internationally recognisable brand, and many, many, many small operating businesses under the franchise model, which opens you up in sort of in the same way as Parliament's scandals over the years have, where everyone's working in a very recognisable building, but you've technically got 650 people all employing their own staff in their own ways. That would appear to be where there's a big gulf in managing this and in putting safeguards in
standards
place.
and supervision, all of that. OK, thank you very much. So let's talk about the snow situation, the snow and rain, because each are providing their own problems, Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when the weather hits in the way that it does, particularly the rain and the snow, and if you're part of the country where your area's been flooded, this is very, very serious, and we shouldn't make light of it. Getting your house flooded is a miserable experience, ruins your life. And in those circumstances, you'd want the insurance companies and the relevant authorities to respond quickly and appropriately. But there is an interesting story in one of the papers that a pub, I think in North Yorkshire, has been snowed in, and the regulars at the boozer have been stuck in there for about 3 days or so. So it suggests to me if it's snowing, that's the pub to head to, because you'll get a long lock-in.
As long as they haven't run out of anything important.
Well, no, apparently they're supplied for a month food-wise, and I think 2 to 3 weeks beer-wise. I suppose it depends what everybody's drinking. And, your enjoyment of this does depend on who you're in the pub with. Crucially, if you've ended up with the other person from the village that you can't stand, it might not be a great experience.
Well, we have tried to plough our way through the snow and the rain and whatever to get there, and there's a chance we could be speaking to someone from the pub after 9 o'clock this morning.
Presumably, if we're able to get a news crew there, we're able to get people out as well.
I think they're just going to Zoom us, I think. But we did read in the papers that nobody's actually in a rush to leave that pub.
No, I would imagine not.
Very happy with their...
Quite a New Year's Eve party. They're still celebrating New Year's Eve, are they, up there, are they, in the pub?
But no, the fact is, at some point, this snow will begin to melt. And I think I saw Monty Don on Twitter yesterday saying this is the first time in the 34 years he's lived in his home where he has sort of simultaneous flooding and snow on the ground at the same time. So I think that's going to be an issue across the country, in particular, I think, in the West Country over the course of the next couple of days.
Yeah, very much so. I think there's already yellow weather warnings.
Let's, Jonathan, talk about Elon Musk, who's taking up much of the headlines in the news agenda and whatever. What do you make of him? Should we be paying him any attention? I mean, the pattern is obvious. The money and the influence through the company create a lot of people paying him attention, which in real life I don't think people would, because I think he is an odd individual.
I mean, I wouldn't pay him any attention. He's because he is an attention seeker, and he's a big mouth. His comments on British politics are frankly deranged. We've seen him what happened to Nigel Farage when he flirted with him. As I say, he handed Nigel Farage his backside on a plate over the weekend. So I wouldn't pay him any attention. But it is certainly true that he is getting a lot of coverage for his increasingly, frankly, balmy tweets that I still call it Twitter, I don't call it X, for his balminess on Twitter. And in the end, is he going to influence a general election in this country? I don't think so. I think people out there are smarter than to take any notice.
I think it depends.
Like that.
I think it depends if he puts money in. You know, the United Kingdom does elections very, very differently to the US, where he's based, and I think actually where he has citizenship as well. Money in US politics talks. There are constitutional protections around money linking to free speech during elections. We don't have a similar system over here for this. However, if he chucks in the money that he's rumoured to be wanting to chuck into the Reform Party, that that may well be a very big shift in how the UK does politics over the next 5 years. And that means that he does become a player in this particular scenario, and quite a concerning one from my point of view, because as Jonathan says, the king should dissolve Parliament for another general election. There's some completely barking things that he says. For the most part, the United Kingdom has very strong constitutional protections in place against rogue actors like Elon Musk. But money could change some of that, and that would be very dangerous for us.
And there's a big question mark now, isn't there, over that funding from Elon Musk to the Reform Party. Nigel Farage has actually spoken about that, speaking to The Telegraph today. He said he wouldn't accept a donation from Elon Musk if it came with conditions. That included support for Tommy Robinson. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Nigel Farage can accept one dime now from Elon Musk, because Elon Musk has been promoting Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is a disgusting far-right figure.
Yeah.
And Nigel Farage, I actually think Nigel Farage should have come out and condemned Elon Musk when he made these remarks about Tommy Robinson. He didn't do that. He was still sucking up to him on the news when he was on the telly on Sunday morning. And as I say, look where that got him.
He also said that he's a defender of free speech and he's a hero for that, and he doesn't agree with everything he says, but he's entitled to say it.
Well, there's defending free speech, and then there's using money and platforms that are directly under your control now in order to influence free speech. And I think that's where Elon Musk is probably tipping into. Here and in Germany and in France, he's putting out editorials against AfD in Germany, and this becomes an issue about who controls the mechanisms for free speech. He controls an enormous platform that he has essentially ultimate control over, and that does become a question of how free the speech is.
Well, I control this platform this morning, and Lauren, got to say, lovely having you here. Thank you very much indeed, Jonathan. Hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Thank you both very much indeed. We'll go to the break and we'll give you the weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cold start with frost and ice in places, also some snow showers which may lead to some disruption. Plenty of sunshine around, though it is going to be feeling cold. Plenty of showers feeding into northern and northwestern parts, these falling as snow, not just over hills but to lower levels too, particularly across Wales and at times central parts of England too. A chance this could lead to some disruption also. Away from these showers though, there'll be plenty of dry weather, plenty of sunshine, though it is going to be feeling cold. Highs only reaching around 6 to 7 Celsius across the south, but not really pushing much past 2 to 3 Celsius in northern areas. And with that added wind chill, that is going to make things feel even colder. Then to end the day across Scotland, we're still going to see plenty of these snow showers feeding in, likely adding to accumulations that we've already seen across northern parts of Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still seeing a good influx of these showers moving through, likely drier in the far east of northern parts of England. And similar across Wales, still seeing plenty of these snow showers, the driest and brightest of the weather likely across the very far southeast. But into the evening, we are still likely to see plenty of clear spells. So once again, another sharp frost and likely seeing further icy stretches by the time we reach the morning. And it's not going to be completely dry. We're still going to see a continuation of these showers, particularly moving into northwestern parts, still falling as snow. But many towns and cities widely dropping below zero, particularly in rural spots where it's likely to be especially cold. Then to start on Wednesday, we see more of the same. Once again, plenty of sunshine to start, though still seeing a feed of those snow showers into the northwest. And then a chance we could see some outbreaks of snow falling into southern counties too, though there is slightly lower confidence as to exactly whereabouts the snow will be, though there is a snow warning issued across the far south. And for many of us, once again, it is going to be a cold end to the day. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M8 in West Lothian, the outside lanes closed eastbound at junction 3 at Livingston after an accident. The A1 in Tyne and Wears blocked southbound by an accident just before junction 79 at Gosforth Park, with queues from junction 80 at Seaton Burn. Flights are suspended at Liverpool John Lennon Airport because of snow. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from Claypole turnoff to the Marston turnoff because of flooding, and through Lincolnshire closed northbound from the Melton Mowbray turnoff to Long Bennington. In the West Midlands, the A41 is closed along Bilston Road in Wolverhampton after an accident. The M1 in Northamptonshire is blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 17 and 16 from the M45 towards Northampton, causing queues. The M4 in Berkshire is blocked eastbound by an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Newbury to Reading, causing queues. And there's disruption to flights at Bristol Airport because of problems earlier with the weather.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang. From treats to holidays to fun times with the family, a totally tax-free £50,000 in cash could make you feel alive in 2025. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2.
For an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. The grooming gangs fall out. Rumbles on.
The Prime Minister is accused of dismissing calls for a national inquiry as far right.
The Home Secretary tries to calm the storm by announcing tougher sentences for groomers. Earlier, we spoke to the Justice Secretary. This is what he had to say.
People like Keir Starmer have said you should turn a blind eye for fear of political correctness, that we have seen this happen time and again, decade after decade. It has to end.
The Lib Dems call for a complete overhaul of support for carers as they bring attention to sandwich carers, the squeezed middle, responsible for looking after both their children and their parents.
What's happening weather-wise? Lincolnshire and Leicestershire have declared major incidents. Rain and snow still battering them and a lot of the country. More than 30 people are stuck in a pub in North Yorkshire thanks to the flooding. We'll be talking to just a few of them very, very shortly, we hope.
Hello there, good morning. It's a cold and icy start, also with some snow showers in the west, and this could lead to some travel disruption. I'll be here later with all the details.
Just after 9 o'clock, a very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
You're so good. Thanks very much indeed for keeping in touch and taking part with what we are doing, following the videos that we're they're showing that appear on Instagram, saying they become addictive to many of us. We've got one from one of our viewers called Cheryl. Now, tell us the story behind Cheryl.
So her farrier is shoeing her horse Jubilee. So that is when you literally dig out all of the muck, all of the dirt from the horse's hoof.
Well, do you know Jubilee is a police horse, a retired police horse, and she was named by the late Queen.
So she's a regal horse.
Yeah.
And she is a beauty.
Oh.
An absolute beauty. And I'm sure she feels huge relief at having the farrier clean out her hooves.
Yeah, and do all that. Well, that's lovely to see that being done as well.
Well, it is addictive, isn't it, these videos? Watching all the cleaning going on. It's very satisfying. And it links to what we were looking at yesterday with the sign guy.
Yeah, very true. And his name is Liam Wildish, and he goes on social media as the sign guy. So what does he do there?
Well, viral videos cleaning these dirty road signs. He doesn't get paid a penny for this. He doesn't work for the council. He just takes his own equipment and he cleans these filthy road signs and makes them look beautiful. And he does it as a volunteer just because he wants to give something back to the community. So it's inspired us now to start a daily feature called Eamonn's Community Champions. A bit of a call-out for community champions who do amazing work up and down the country.
Look at that. Look how beautiful that looks now.
He really is amazing. And so many of you got in touch yesterday. You broke the inbox saying how much you love Liam and what an amazing man he is, doing something for his community.
But, you know, it also highlights what voluntary work is. Look at that. That's wonderful. But, you know, people don't seem to volunteer.
No, they don't volunteer
do
anymore.
anything. And why is everything have to have a price? It doesn't have to have a price, but there we are. So it could be you who sends us a video, a neighbour, a friend, someone who lives in your street, whatever, and let us know how what they do is addictive and gets us all watching and looking. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Yeah, and if you're a volunteer who's giving back to the community, do get in touch as well. We'd love to have you on the programme. And thank you for all of your work, because as Eamonn says, people don't volunteer anymore. People don't take pride in their community or their local area, so we'd really like to thank you. And, say a big thank you.
Well,
it's very rare.
Taking pride in a story at the moment about the grooming gangs, Charlie Peters, our reporter, and the story continues to develop and continues to make the news. So let's go live to Charlie, who's in the northwest of the country, and he's going to tell us how things are developing today and why you're up there, Charlie.
Well, Eamonn and Ellie, I'm touring the country this week, going to many of the towns and parts of Britain affected by the grooming gang scandal. We've had a few localised reports in the last decade or so from Rotherham, Rochdale, Telford and also Oldham, also in Greater Manchester. But there's never been that national public inquiry that the leader of the opposition, Reform UK, and many other campaigners and survivors are arguing for now, which is being resisted by the Labour government. This morning we've heard from a Labour minister saying that they intend to vote against a motion being brought forward, an amendment by the Conservatives to call for a national public inquiry. That'll be tabled tomorrow afternoon in the House of Commons. So political pressure on Labour, but they're holding firm and saying that they intend to vote against that motion. Now, throughout this week, we will be speaking to survivors and campaigners. Yesterday, we heard from people in Tameside. We heard from Marlon West, the father of a survivor, Scarlett, who even recently has endured appalling abuse by grooming gangs. He said that he had no faith in the Labour government to push forward a national public inquiry. We also heard from a councillor in Tameside, Liam Billington, who said that he was desperate for an aggressive review to go into the some 50 different towns and cities identified by this channel as having compelling reports of on-street grooming gangs. We made that compilation of 50 towns. We've produced a map after a year-long investigation into the issue. Now, the government is saying that it stands by the ICSA report published by Professor Alexis Jay in 2022. But critics say that that was a very widespread report and it only had one small section on grooming gangs. And when it looked at the areas, it looked at just 6. These were locations where grooming gangs had not previously been found, including Warwickshire. They did not look, for example, at any of the major towns in the Midlands or the North, or indeed around London, such as in Oxford or Banbury or Aylesbury or down into Bristol, where these concerns had been raised. We know of dozens of towns where concerns have been raised, where survivors have been fighting for justice for years, and many fear that a culture of cover-up and corruption and delay and obfuscation has led to calls now to reject a national government inquiry into this scandal. They fear that grave failures by the state, by the police, by council officers, potentially also by politicians, could have led to these calls to reject an investigation. They fear that those failures and those cover-ups will never be revealed if we do not have that aggressive nationwide review. Well, the government say that they're standing firm on their stance on the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. We heard the Home Secretary yesterday saying, Yvette Cooper, that she would introduce a victims panel, mandatory reporting, and also an aggravating factor of grooming in the sentencing of child abusers. These are all recommendations that have been made previously, and those will be brought in, they say, by the spring. But the fact of the matter remains that a lot of survivors are very angry today, not only at the rejection of a national public inquiry, but also by Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, saying that those calling for one are jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. It's that statement that has attracted so much anger from survivors and campaigners in the last day. So much of it I just can't repeat, but there are some severe stances, some very concerned voices across the country today at that stance from the Labour government.
OK, Charlie Peters there for us in Alden. Thank you so much for your hard work in reporting on this for the past 6 days, and it's going to continue. He will continue to shine a light on this and expose more of this scandal. Well, a government spokesperson from the Home Office has issued the following statement, saying no child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation, and it is paramount that we do more to protect vulnerable children, which is why we're working at pace across government to drive forward real action to implement the recommendations of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. Commenting on the criticism of Ms Phillips from Elon Musk, the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has said the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls has dedicated her career to tackling sexual violence and abuse and to being a voice for victims and survivors of the most terrible crimes, including child sexual abuse.
The time 9 minutes now, just come up to 9 minutes past 9. And however you're watching, however you're listening to us, whether it's on your TV, your radio, your smartphone, play GB News and play our incredible £50,000 Great British Giveaway competition. Have a go.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang. From treats to holidays to fun times with the family, a totally tax-free £50,000 in cash could make you feel alive in 2025. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2.
Many people's views on this one.
And on the grooming gang scandal and Sir Keir Starmer's comments on that, Tim says, geez, it's now called far right in the UK if you don't want little girls to be raped by grooming gangs.
Yeah. Incidentally, regarding what is a blacksmith and what is a farrier. Sheila, good morning, Sheila. Sheila says the farmer cleans and prepares the hoof and then nails on the shoe, the farrier. They are still called blacksmiths as well, even if they do that. So they clean and prepare the hoof.
The roles. I'm confused about the roles now between the blacksmith and the farrier.
Well, I think basically...
Or maybe the roles are called different things.
Yeah, but the farrier is supposed to prepare the foot for the blacksmith to nail on the shoe.
OK.
So all that scraping out of cuticle and all that sort of thing.
And can you be both at the same time?
I think you can.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that now.
Mm-hmm.
Do stay with us. Still to come, we are hoping to talk to the pub in North Yorkshire where 30 people have been stuck since Saturday night.
Could think of worse places.
That's true.
Back after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, it's interesting because I haven't actually been told specifically what I've done, which has resulted in me being removed from my committee position, which was head of daytime. I started a podcast in September in which I interviewed Charlie Bentley-Astor, who's a detransitioner. I then also interviewed Graham Linehan and I wrote an article for his Substack. And shortly after that, I was told that I had been suspended and the university union started an investigation into me. And that very quickly became apparent to me that it was an interrogation of my gender-critical views rather than any sort of misconduct that I had been alleged to.
Right. And Graham Linehan has been outspoken on issues relating to transgender ism, whatever you want to call it, gender ideology. And so perhaps just by having associated yourself with him as a controversial figure, that was why the investigation happened, you suspect?
Yes, and already it's quite clear that guilt by association is a crime that you can commit within university societies. I actually purchased my free speech union membership way before this all happened, when a friend helped me edit the episode with Charlie, and he got in trouble with a separate society who told him that he must disassociate himself from me, and if he didn't, further measures would be taken. So at that point, I thought, wow, I better put some damage control in place and purchase my membership in case anything happens to me.
So this decision is made by the student union, right? Is that made up of fellow students? Or who's making this call?
Well, that's actually part of my appeal. So the process has been completely improper. They haven't followed their own guidelines. There are two different guidelines as to whether a complaint is dealt with the society itself, so Leeds Student Radio, or the union, and it's basically been a mishmash of both. So it's been an improper procedure, but it is, as far as I'm aware, it's the student union who's decided to remove me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Just more on the weather situation. More than 100 people have been rescued. This is from floodwater in Lincolnshire and Leicestershire.
Yep, and the snow and the rain shows no signs of easing, with flights cancelled, schools closed, and train drivers even staying at home.
GB News reporter Jack Carson, let's go to him. Tenbury Wells. Tenbury Wells is in Worcestershire. Good morning, Jack.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Well, you can probably see behind me the temporary sandbags that are here. That's because just in the last 3 months, Tenbury Wells here has had 2 floods. They've been lucky not to have been affected so far by the current spate of really bad weather, the yellow weather warnings that we've had in this region. But a lot of people here are very worried about if rainfall continues to come down in the next few days, what that might mean, because the wall that was here was taken away by the last 2 floods. A lot of worry from businesses here, but a further across the country. A severe flood warning was issued by the Environment Agency last night for the River Soar at caravan parks near Barrow. Upon Soar, evacuations have taken place both in Lincolnshire and in Leicestershire. Multiple emergency services across those regions were declaring critical and major incidents, and more than 50 pupils in the school in Lincolnshire had to be rescued as well. This morning the picture looks very similar in parts of Leicestershire and Lincolnshire. 190 flood warnings are still in place across England, around 290 flood alerts, multiple emergency services telling people to be careful, and when you're going out on the roads, of course, and particularly be careful if you do come upon floodwater.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. Stay dry. And what if you were in Britain's House Pub? Britain's House Pub is a place called the Tan Hill. The Tan Hill Inn, it's in North Yorkshire. It's very high up, so high it's 500 metres above sea level.
Yeah, so you can imagine this time of year, it does get quite snowy. Now, this has been a story we've been talking about all day. Over 30 pub goers haven't been so lucky, or lucky, depending on how you see the story.
Yeah.
They've been snowed in at this pub for the past 3 days. They've been snowed in since Saturday night.
Well, we're going to talk to Nicole Atkins now, who is the manager of the Tan Hill Inn. Nicole, are you glad to speak to us? Are we your sort of one of your few connections with the outside world?
Yeah, you're my third interview this morning.
Oh, and how is it there? Seriously, 3 days you've spent in there.
Yeah, we're all good. We're all in good spirits. Everyone's just up having breakfast now. We had a party last night, so I think there's a few little more delicate heads this morning than there was yesterday.
So, Nicole, what happened? So everyone just came to the pub as normal on Saturday night? Did you know that snow was forecast? Were you expecting that you could get locked in?
We didn't expect to be locked in. We're always prepared. We always have like a month's worth of stock on site. As soon as we knew that amber warning had hit, that's when we'd stopped people coming up, and we put a message out and rang guests and stuff not to travel, because obviously we didn't want them to travel in amber warning. The people that we have got here, some of them have been here since Saturday morning, and they were stopping with us Saturday and Sunday night. A couple of people came up on Saturday afternoon, but after that, like, no one has entered the pub since.
Yeah. So if I'm picking you up correctly, you have rooms there at the inn?
We do.
Yeah, so you've got food, you've got rooms, you've got heat. Is all that holding up?
Yeah, we've got enough stock to last us a month. We've got plenty of logs. We had 2 log deliveries last week. Our generator has been restocked with fuel because we're totally off-grid. We don't have any wires to the pub, so we are totally remote.
So lots of people saying you're actually the luckiest people in Britain.
Yeah, you can say so. We are missing our families. Like, some of us, like the staff that are here, have been here since New Year's Eve. We were due to swap shifts on Sunday with other staff. So one of my colleagues has missed her daughter's 18th birthday today. So yeah, lucky and a bit of like sadness at the same time. We're missing our homes.
I'm sure. And Nicole, has anybody given you an indication as to when you may be able to get out and get home?
Well, we've had notifications that the 66 has been reopened this morning. We have had notifications from one of the farmers yesterday that he did get through in the plough, but that was only because he'd forced his way through because he'd been out since 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
But I was getting notifications from the local farmers last night that there's still 4-5 foot snowdrifts that just the snowplows can't get through. All the roads up to the pub are literally stuck with snowdrifts. So hopefully the plough's going to try again this morning.
Wow, we can see there in that picture that snow is really, really thick. What are your guests saying to you? Are they desperate to get out, or are they having a lovely time holed up in the pub?
Oh, they're having the best time. We've got a family from Australia. We've got a family that's a bit more local from Skeevy. Yeah, but we're all having a really, really good time. We had a party last night. We had a movie day yesterday in the barn. So yeah, we're doing good. We're still in really good spirit.
That's good. And lunch next, you got to prepare that, and yeah, everybody will sit down for that.
Yeah, one of the local sisters come in.
Yeah, all right. Well, look, really appreciate you taking time to talk to us today. You're in all the newspapers, you know.
You are. You're famous, Nicole.
This is our dog that's stuck with us, Agatha.
Agatha? Hi, Agatha.
It was Agatha's birthday yesterday.
How old is Agatha?
She's 4.
Oh, beautiful. What breed of dog is Agatha?
She's a Vizsla.
Oh, very nice. Lovely,
She's a beauty. She's having a lovely time with you in that pub.
Thanks for talking to us, Nicole.
Oh, thank you so much.
Not at all. Good luck to everybody. Thank you
See you
very much
later.
indeed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, come back and tell us how you're doing tomorrow, Nicole.
Definitely.
Thank you. Bye.
Why can I ask why Agatha's a he?
Was it a he?
She said
with the
it's
name
he.
Agatha.
She's calling him he.
Oh, and I was calling her a beauty. Whoops.
Anything goes nowadays.
Yeah, it's
Didn't
true.
worry so much about it. What are you going to concentrate on this morning, guys?
Well, we're delighted we've got Zia Youssef, who's the chairman of Reform UK, coming on to talk about the ongoing problems with Elon Musk, whether they can manage without his money, whether they've been hijacked by him, should they have been so close to him in the first place.
Yeah. And also this NHS change, it isn't really a change, is it? It's the same thing dressed up slightly differently, that you won't be getting treatments if you are overweight or a smoker. Like, we think that's been going on for years,
Yeah,
so why they're
you go to the back of the queue
as a new policy.
And that extraordinary Labour TikTok ad, which they put out yesterday, bulldogs and...
The AI bulldogs
the AI
and
bulldog,
lions.
They've had to withdraw it because somebody didn't realise the music it's set to has the most filthy lyrics.
Oh!
Yeah, the one of these trendy rap songs.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
and, I mean, filthy.
We will tell you within the bounds of acceptable language at 9:30 in the morning what they got wrong with that
Somebody
song
too
yesterday.
clever by half.
Who
the
advised
Labour
them
Party
on any of
HQ.
that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a
Where are the
stupid-
checks and balances?
It was a stupid film anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Well,
yeah.
you know, is anybody allowed to say or do anything now with Elon Musk looking over from the USA, supervising all that goes on?
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know why people are getting so annoyed about him.
Look, I think he should say what he likes. I couldn't care less what he thinks
Yeah.
about anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me, but he's freedom of speech. I did think it wasn't necessarily a good idea for Reform to be thinking of taking 100 or 80 million pounds from this man.
Well, then Nigel Farage telling the Telegraph today he can do without it. Doesn't
Yeah.
need his money, especially if it comes a
Well,
condition.
he would have to say that now, wouldn't he?
But I think, I said yesterday, I think Nigel would see that as a nice to have rather than something that they need to be a success. They were already on a path, a trajectory for what they would see as a successful aim for the next election. Elon Musk came along, it would have helped, but it's not going to derail or change their plans, is it?
Well, Musk changes his mind all the time with so many things. We hear he's been in touch today with Nigel Farage, and they've
He's retweeting him on X.
He's kissed him. They've kissed him it up.
Well, it would seem so.
Well, I wonder if Donald Trump's got involved, because Trump does like Farage, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
He's
They're
like
big
Piggy in the middle if they're ever falling out.
I don't think Musk and Trump will still be great buddies in a year's time. That'd be my prediction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a power play going on
He's too
there.
capricious, that man.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much indeed. Have yourselves a good show. Appreciate your company this morning. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be with you again tomorrow from 6 through to 9:30.
Yep, let's have a look at the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cold start with frost and ice in places, also some snow showers which may lead to some disruption. Plenty of sunshine around, though it is going to be feeling cold. Plenty of showers feeding into northern and northwestern parts, these falling as snow, not just over hills but to lower levels too, particularly across Wales and at times central parts of England too. A chance this could lead to some disruption also. Away from these showers though, there'll be plenty of dry weather, plenty of sunshine, though it is going to be feeling cold. Highs only reaching around 6 to 7 Celsius across the south, but not really pushing much past 2 to 3 Celsius in northern areas. And with that added wind chill, that is going to make things feel even colder. Then to end the day across Scotland, we're still going to see plenty of these snow showers feeding in, likely adding to accumulations that we've already seen across northern parts of Scotland. Similar across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, still seeing a good influx of these showers moving through, likely drier in the far east of northern parts of England. And similar across Wales, still seeing plenty of these snow showers, the driest and brightest of the weather likely across the very far southeast. But into the evening, we are still likely to see plenty of clear spells. So once again, another sharp frost and likely seeing further icy stretches by the time we reach the morning. And it's not going to be completely dry. We're still going to see a continuation of these showers, particularly moving into northwestern parts, still falling as snow. But many towns and cities widely dropping below zero, particularly in rural spots where it's likely to be especially cold. Then to start on Wednesday, we see more of the same. Once again, plenty of sunshine to start, though still seeing a feed of those snow showers into the northwest. And then a chance we could see some outbreaks of snow falling into southern counties too, though there is slightly lower confidence as to exactly whereabouts the snow will be, though there is a snow warning issued across the far south. And for many of us, once again, it is going to be a cold end to the day. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Flights are suspended at Aberdeen International Airport and at Liverpool John Lennon Airport because of snow on the A58M Inner Ring Road in Leeds as a lane closed eastbound where someone's broken down at the A58 West Street junction. It's taking around half an hour in queues towards there from the Allen Road interchange. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from the Claypole turn-off to the Marston turn-off because of flooding. Northbound it's closed through Lincolnshire between the Melton Mowbray turn-off and Long Bennington. Now, in Newport, the A48 Southern Distributor Road is closed westbound from the Hartridge Farm roundabout to the Balfe Road roundabout after an accident causing queues. And on the M4 in Berkshire, 2 lanes are closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Newbury to Reading, causing long delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
I'm joined with Ryan-Mark Parsons, who's a TV personality, a columnist, and he was on The Apprentice a few years back, weren't you? That's where most people would recognise your face from. One of the youngest contenders ever on The Apprentice. How did that work out?
Well, you know what? I never in a million years thought I'd get on the show. I was 18 when I applied. There were about 6 months of auditions. It was intense. You met Lord Sugar's advisors, his lawyers, his business advisors. It was the most intense thing I've ever done. And I just thought, never in a million years am I going to get on the show as a teenager. And I got the call from the exec. And he was like, you're one of the 16 candidates. And it was just like, really? So I took a gap year. I've just finished my A-levels. I was working in Harrods before. And I just came up with this business idea, took it onto the show, and I got fired in the end. I lasted 8 weeks, which wasn't too bad. But
what was the business idea? Educate me.
A concierge, similar to companies like Velocity Black, quintessentially, that work with some of the private banks. It was similar to that. I was inspired by my time in Harrods, working with some of these ultra-high net worth clients. So I just wrote a 40-page business